guess our guest observer. So we have today we are going to approve some minutes. We're going to talk about what the planning board will be presenting at town meeting. We will talk about the ADU bylaw that the planning board is sponsoring. Then we're going to talk about where the board's whether the board wants to take any action on any other town meeting articles of note. We have 3 ZBA petitions, and then we will hopefully adjourn on time. So there's always something to shoot for. Ad astra per astra, as they used to say, or something like that. Okay, so why don't we start with updates? Brian.
Sure. So between now and 7:15, we're planning to do some updates as well as appoint or reappoint someone to the Rangeley Park Heritage District Commission. So we'll have a little truncated version of the updates today. But just to quickly go through a couple of things. So one, the Waterfield lot. So Civico is working with VHB, who is their traffic consultant, to kind of finalize the traffic scope as part of their application. Civico plans to either go through a special permit or a PUD special permit for their permitting schedule. Again, we don't really know until they actually apply, but it looks like that is the direction that they're going rather than having to go through a 40B. Nobody really knew this until recently, but Civico has done a numerous developments with deed restricted affordable housing, but they typically do not go through the 40B process. They typically go through a special permit process and then deed restrict the units just like any other development. So that's more of their bread and butter. And it seems like that's what they're going to go through. So again, they're planning to have their permitting schedule. They plan to file their application for a special permit or PUD special permit through the planning board sometime before the end of the year. So sometime over the next 2 months. Really quick about a meeting had the end of last week with the Chamber of Commerce and the town manager, or the town manager, and assistant town manager and members of the select board about a company called Ride Circuit. And Ride Circuit is an electric shuttle service company that operates all over the country and is quite successful in a lot of different locales. Also, they have now entered Massachusetts. They are in Plymouth and in Boston at the moment. So we're looking at potential options in the immediate future, specifically due to the closed Winchester Center MBTA station, in order to get more people on the train at Wedgemere. So what Ride Circuit is it operates under like a host agreement with the town, and they have a geographic area where they would be able to essentially work like Uber or Lyft, but it's only electric vehicles. It's 6-person shuttles. It's small, 4-person, 5-person vehicles, and it's also 12 to 20 passenger vans. The next step in the process at the moment is that they are going to kind of figure out a potential first pass at a coverage map in order to kind of look at our needs, specifically, like I said, with the train station, getting more for people that are no longer walking to the center, but are still taking the train. Some of them are actually not walking all the way to Wedgemere. So this could help with that, but probably the more of the elephant in the room is the Winchester Hospital. So right now they have satellite parking facilities, some of them in Woburn, and then I'm sure people see the Winchester Hospital shuttles operating in town. Those are just for Winchester Hospital employees. It's possible there could be some synergy there. And so we're gonna, the next step is to kind of talk with the Winchester Hospital Transportation Division and kind of see where the hospital and the train can kind of meet, because there's really no place, there's no public transit for hospital workers to get to the hospital. So that is why the shuttle system exists currently. There's only a few more minutes left, so I think I'm going to turn it back to you, Diab, so that we can potentially do this appointment before 7:15. So thanks so much. Back to you. You are muted, Diab.
Thank you, Brian. We definitely want to do the appointment next, and then we do have a request for funds for a traffic study for Waterfield. So why don't we first turn to our guests for the Rangeley Park Heritage District? Or yes, that's what it is called. Sorry. Margaret Mack, are you with us, Margaret? Are you with us? I can't speak this evening.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Thank you. So this is not your first time on the board. You are re-upping. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I have lived in Winchester since 1996 and have lived on Rangeley Road since 2006. And when the Rangeley Park Heritage District Commission started, my husband and I were very interested in this idea to help preserve the integrity of the neighborhood. So it's been very interesting to be on this board for the last number of years.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Yi-Ching, please go ahead.
Yeah, I thank you for your service. I would be interested in knowing what some of your issues are and how it's been on the board. What are some of your biggest sort of struggles or concerns with this committee?
There really aren't any. We are any household in our neighborhood, in the Rangeley neighborhood, can elect to choose to be part of this heritage district, and it helps preserve the houses and the homes in the neighborhood. And if you make any changes to the outside, your front facing facade, it goes through the board. We don't care about paint colors, nothing inside. It's just to keep the integrity of the house. And so there really haven't been any issues. It just keeps an old neighborhood, old and not a lot of new construction and that type of thing.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions from the board? If not, then I would welcome a motion to reappoint Margaret Mack to the Rangeley Heritage District Commission.
I so move.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please. Kurt Spring.
Aye.
Sally Dale.
Aye.
Yi-Ching Scott.
Aye.
Nick Rosettos.
Aye.
And I, Diab say aye as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Margaret. And really glad that you have decided to continue.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Margaret.
Good night.
Brian, you want to tee up our discussion of the Tool traffic study?
Sure. So as I mentioned in my updates, the applicant for the Waterfield lot, Civico, is finalizing their scope for the traffic study for potential. So this is not just looking at cars, but really also bike and pedestrian infrastructure and counts. So as they were finalizing their scope, we thought it made sense for our consultant to kind of get ahead of that and have, so that rather than VHB come up with a scope that doesn't make sense and we get a traffic study that we don't necessarily think is extensive enough, or just what we don't think is right. In talking with the town manager, we thought it made sense to bring Tool in before permitting, pre-permitting, so that Tool can get all the information they need to in order to make the project move forward. So after talking with the town manager and looking at our budget, we know that we're out of professional services money. That's all been contracted through Form in Place and through MAPC for our two projects of North Main Street and the IL district rezoning. So I was looking at our budget and found that there's a couple of items that we don't typically use all of, and that is our advertising budget, our printing budget, and our computer supplies budget. So I'm going to bring that up super quick. You guys looking at this Excel sheet, yellow on top?
Yep.
Okay. So what we need, it is not anticipated that all of this $2,000 would be used for this pre-permitting exercise with Tool. But I thought it's probably going to be more than 1,000. So I just thought to make sense. So what this is showing is that we are going to be putting in, so our budget, our total budget is not changing. All we're doing is moving certain pieces of our budget to the professional services budget. So what this is saying is that our professional services budget would increase by $2,000. And then that is coming from these three items: $1,000 from our advertising budget, which we'll still have almost another $2,000 on top of that. Our printing budget, which we rarely use all of, and then computer supplies. This year, it is not anticipated that I need any. And also almost all of my computer supplies comes out of the budget of the IT director. So before Diab could sign this, it made sense to bring this to the board for a vote, so that everything is on the up and up and we make sure that everyone's aware of this budget change. So that is the recap. Back to you, Diab.
Any discussion from the board?
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
So VHB is the traffic design company, engineering company that Civico included in their team for the development of the Waterfield site. And they haven't filed their application yet for that. So we're still in a pre-application status, but they are asking for a scope of study for VHB to use, just to get them rolling in advance of even starting the application, right? Filing the application, right?
So as part of their application, they need to provide a study.
I see.
And so this money is not going to VHB. This money is going to Tool Design, who's sitting in on these, who just sat in on a meeting, and there might only be one more meeting. So we're not talking about like this large, extensive process.
Right.
The idea is that, so this money again is going towards Tool Design, which is our consultant.
Right. I guess I was just confused about why we have to use town money to help them.
Oh, but I think the confusion is, Sally, that we are doing this at our own behest.
Right.
So this is not VHB, this is not Civico asking us to do this. This is the town manager saying we should do this ahead of time in
Right.
order that we are prepared for when Civico engages VHB.
So it's really just helping the town figure out exactly what they want to ask for and look for and see.
Yes.
This is also the town manager having a hat on as the town engineer as well. Really, even though we're saying that the meeting is with the town manager, it's really the town engineer in terms of, Beth Rudolph, same person there, but it's so it's just making sure we get exactly what we want and need.
Right, which will be very helpful, because we don't have a lot of control over the roads in town, but it would be good to have some control over the way in the center business district that this major construction helps with movement through town.
Right. So some of this is the infrastructure that may happen as mitigation. So, they're building something new. There might be some mitigation in terms of some, a crosswalk, for example, a cross water field to get to the town common from the new development. But really, this is not about like determining what mitigation would happen. This
Right.
is really determining what is the scope of the traffic study, meaning what data are they going to be looking at as they provided. So they had a whole bunch of questions. Tool Design has done a lot of work in this area due to the upgraded infrastructure at Church and Waterfield, as well as at McCall Middle School. So there's been a lot of work that Tool has done around this area. So it's just kind of
We can leverage that.
exactly. So
Yeah.
And this doesn't
Right.
preclude, so after the application is submitted, we then do have the ability to request 53G money in order to review the plan that comes out of VHB. So this is not our only bite at the apple, but this is the only one that we have to pay for.
Right. Okay. Well, I just got confused and I appreciate
Yep.
the clarification.
So any more questions on that? Yi-Ching, please.
Since the select board seems to be the ones who own the roads and traffic, why is it coming not from their budget and coming from ours? And another point is this the rest of our budget till June?
So yes, this is the rest of our, so
Holy smokes.
our professional services budget, we only had 45,000 this year. 30,000 is contracted for Form in Place for North Main. 15,000 is contracted for MAPC for the IL. The reason why is because the managers didn't have this in their budget. So they requested it from us, and this is the pitch to the planning board saying, we have the money to do it. Are we willing to do it?
But this is gonna last us till June, right? And we have $2,000 left in our budget.
No. So we
I was
have,
gonna say, Brian, sorry, when you say contracted, you mean basically we've allotted or committed a portion of our budget to those contracts, which will run through June. So it's not as though that money's gone, it's just allocated to specific.
Right.
exactly.
But then
allocated.
we can't have any more contracts.
We never could. We never
Correct.
could have any more contracts. Our contracts, we had decided this year that we are contracting out all of our $45,000 to 2 contracts. So that was already decided. This is just moving around money that we are typically don't use.
So you didn't answer the question. Why? So the select board isn't. Why isn't the select board owning this?
The select board doesn't technically have a budget. The manager has a budget and does not have money for this in their budget. So they asked us if we have it in our budget.
And another way of looking at this is that we are the special permit granting authority. So we are going to be reviewing whatever traffic study comes out of VHB. So in a sense, this is helping us make sure that we get the information we need for the permit coming through. So the select board does have, they certainly do control the streets in a sense, but if VHB comes up with some sort of remediation or some other extra thing, we want to be able to have control over that. And that's where we step in. So I don't know if that's helps, but this is really to help us in this, because we're the ones who have to review this. So. But yes, we do have a tiny budget, and it is getting stressed. There's no more ice cream parties for the rest of the year. So are there any other, like we had so many?
I was about to say, I was not invited to any ice cream parties, so.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I wasn't supposed to let you know. Are there any further questions? If not, then I would welcome a motion one way or the other. I guess.
I move to approve the reallocation, the proposed reallocation of the budget.
Okay, so that would be to be technical, we're going to move 1,000 from the planning board advertising, 500 from planning board printing, and 500 from planning board computer supplies to planning board professional services. So that is so moved. Is there a
So
second?
moved. Yeah.
I can second that.
Okay. Roll call vote, please. Kurt Spring,
Aye.
Nick Rosettos,
Aye.
Sally Dale,
I,
I Ching Scott,
Aye.
and I, Dave Jerry, say aye as well. Thank you all very much. And let's not spend it all in one place. Although I guess
I think we actually literally are spending it all in one place.
well, let's not two places. Okay.
Sorry, two.
Okay, so let us move on to planning board minutes. Thank you, Nancy. We have two minutes to approve or before us. So the first one is for October the 11th, 2022. Are there any comments?
I'm gonna need a minute to get it up. For some reason, it's not, I gotta find the other packet. So just give me a second.
Okay. Although next year, I think we need to go over to Brian's for Halloween. I'm told it's a great time. He lives in Salem too, so you know.
I don't live in Salem.
Oh, you don't?
I live in-
Beverly,
I live in Beverly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
North Shore, close enough.
Close enough. Okay,
It's
I have
over
it.
that way.
I have it.
so I have one edit on page 1 and 2 edits on page 3. That's what I have.
All right, I got it here. Um,
I'm so sorry, Brian. I've known you how many years and I don't know where you live.
okay, we were looking at October 11th here. You guys see
Yes.
that? Okay, go for it, Sally.
So, at the bottom third of the page where it says Chair Jarius, if when. It's you're right,
Yes.
yeah, right there. I think it's supposed to say if/when. If/when the property changes ownership and the new owner does not want to continue a rental unit, this includes a grace period to allow time for the current renter to relocate. Or you could.
Yeah, I guess we could actually just remove the word if and say when, because
Okay,
that seems reasonable.
okay.
At some point, the property will change ownership unless, well,
Right,
there's that one house.
It was unclear how that was,
Yeah,
and then on the top of page 3, the third bullet. So the current capital funding requests that total 9.325 million are the funding requests to our building stabilization fund and our capital stabilization fund, but not all capital requests. They have that spreadsheet from,
okay, right, because there are other funding sources.
yeah, it's cemetery, water, sewer, or something
Right,
else.
right.
These two numbers are the total of the building stabilization fund and the capital stabilization fund. And I just wanted it to be corrected to say that.
Okay, sounds good to me.
And then under number 5, under Mr. Wang, the first bullet. So I think complete streets in 2 locations should be capitalized because it's a specific design package of ideas. And then the second sentence, it made sense to me if it said as a design exercise, form in place focused on one intersection and explored elements. You know, I didn't understand, like, focused on one intersection sounds like that was going to be the scope of their work, and we knew that was not the case. Just to say it's a
Could you
design.
highlight that sentence possibly, Brian? I am missing it.
So Mr. Wang.
Oh, the second sentence, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it says background, 3 components to enhance their corridor. 1, the first one is as a design exercise, they focused on one intersection and explored elements to make it into a complete street. Then also acknowledged the impact on the corridor and now concentrating on issues related to future development.
Sounds
But
good.
I didn't want to make it sound like form in place was just focusing on one intersection because
Yep.
it's bigger than that. And those were my only,
I have a couple of quick ones. Brian, can I request that you make this bigger? My old eyes can't read this on the screen. At the bottom of page 1, Ms. Simboli asked about the square footage and how 900 was calculated. I just want to sort of emphasize the point that I presented a slide, but the size is typical of other communities, but it's large enough to accommodate 2 bedrooms for those who need assistance, and small enough to be accessory to the main unit. And I don't think that was communicated there. In the second page, when Ms. Sullivan asked why by special permit, and I was hoping that this was said, I didn't check, but Deb, you said special permit is usually for projects that are non-compliant. But I was hoping that you had said to ease the process and to offer predictability for property owners.
I hope I said that too, but I do not remember, so.
I don't know if we can add that in for clarification. Or...
I think that was made in that point was made in the meeting.
So why don't we ask Nancy if she could review that section of the meeting and to verify that that was said, just to make sure.
Okay. I can submit those notes with that request.
Please.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. So why don't we hold off on this approval of this until we get that feedback from Nancy? And then let's move on to October 18th. And any comments on this one?
I have one. On page 1, update 1D. And I wanted to say that the Fells Hardware Project court challenge was in the discovery phase last July, because it wasn't that the Fells project itself.
That is correct. Yep.
I just wanted to have it reflect that.
Perhaps calling it the appeal.
Okay, the appeal, that would be fine. And I didn't have any other good minutes.
Any other comments from the board?
Nope.
Well, then I would welcome a motion approving the minutes Tuesday, October 18th, 2022 as amended.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Sally Dale.
Aye.
Kurt Spring.
Aye.
Nick Rosettos.
Aye.
I Ching Scott.
Aye.
And I, Deb Jerry, say aye as well. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Nancy, for those great meeting minutes. So onwards. So now let us discuss what the planning board will be presenting at town meeting. Brian, can you pop up the draft that I circulated over the weekend? And I should note that I mentioned to board members in my email that I would be working on it to expand the notes section, and that unfortunately did not happen. So luckily for you, you didn't have to read anything more. And you also have in your packet an extensive set of comments from Sally, which is very helpful. And a lot of these were supposed to be things I spoke to, so they don't show up on the slides, but they're supposed to show up in the notes. And so I'm going to take notes this evening to make sure that all of your comments get in there.
Deb, I don't have, so I have, there was a version of the report that got put in the packet. I do not have something from you this weekend in terms of slides.
I sent that to the planning board. Should have gone to you. There wasn't a version. The only thing that went into the packet was Sally's notes. But let me find it. I can send it to you.
You sent it on Monday at 1:34 a.m.
Yeah, just looked for something that starts with draft.
Got that. No.
Yep.
Sorry, I was looking for a Sunday.
That's
But that kind of was. It was
It's when you go to bed, that's when
Sunday
the day
plus,
ends.
Sunday plus.
1:34 a.m. That's challenging.
Okay, so the annotated one or the non-annotated one?
Why don't we put the annotated one up? Because it has
Okay.
the words
All
that I
right.
managed to squeeze in there. And I think that's the gist. The slides are one thing, but the talking points are the other. So this may make it a little tiny, but let's see how we can deal with that. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. This is just the introduction. Pretty picture. We've added Ken Pruitt and taken out Anderson Krieger. So that's pretty much, I haven't come up with a new design this time. And we'll have to stick with that one. I was thinking of balloons, but I just didn't have the time to put them in balloons. Anyway, next one, please. Okay, now this is a revised slide that we put out every year showing all the major developments. So the next slide is we start talking about the ones from last time, and not much has changed. So it's this is the first slide just showing the names of the developments. I didn't want to dump the entire table at people. So the next slide just moves on and shows us that essentially nothing has really changed. The only difference is that 10 Converse Place is still under review by the Concom, and according to Brian's notes, it's supposed to be done sometime soon. Let's just say sometime soon. So I'm not going to say much about that because there's not much to say. So, and we can keep going. Oh, this is where I say it's under review. Then I introduced the 3 new projects. And then we scroll. And so this is where the tofu comes out rather than the meat. So we have, and I want to make sure I get these correct. So Washington Swanton is, we're doing a land disposition agreement at this town meeting, and that's joint with the town. Waterfield lot, I'm calling it joint with the town because it's town-owned land.
It is. This is a lease. The Waterfield is a lease, so it definitely is still under our ownership. So I would consider that. Yeah.
I wonder if you could use on the second line of those 2 yellow boxes, language that would clearly distinguish between that this is a sale of land by the town, and this is a lease of town land, something like that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I highlight, sorry, I have to find a pen. I pinged them for a pen, which is not going to get me a very big pen.
But the fact that you said that they're different and these are the differences, but it looks the same, I just thought that would help.
No, no. I do say something about the difference on the next page, but that's fine. I will. What language do you suggest, considering we have 10 characters?
So for Washington Swanton, you could say land sale by town or something in those effects, and then the Waterfield is land lease.
Okay, so I can actually, I think putting it in the box next to it would have more room, running out of room. So
yeah. So
Washington Swanton.
You could say approval of sale at this town meeting. Because the LDA is essentially an approval of the sale.
Okay, so I will so this would be approval of sale. And then Waterfield lot is leased. And then 8789 Cross Street is 8789 Cross Street. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. And I'm calling it a friendly 40B, even though it's technically a local initiative, because I think that's the word people understand. It's a LIP technically, but nobody knows what a LIP is.
Well, and what's interesting is that what I understand that a LIP is, it means that the town puts money on the table to encourage the developer to put in the affordable housing. Right.
Specifically in Winchester, our policy is to pay for upwards of 3 consultants for $10,000 each. So a max of $30,000 for essentially the 53G. We usually make the applicant pay.
Right.
But
so if friendly 40B essentially means that the town puts $30,000 towards the project?
At most, but yes.
And so do people know that?
Well, it is the select board's policy for about 5 or 6 years, but I guess I should say that it's an actual joint application. So it's not just money. It's also saying that the town itself will not, appeal, will not fight. I mean, we're on the application. It's a joint signature of
okay.
the select board, housing partnership board, and the applicant.
Okay, so it's a friendly 40B means it's a joint application between a developer and the town.
Yeah, that's,
You-
thank you
That's
for
really
that, Mike.
helpful to understand.
So-
I don't think people know that.
So
Yeah,
maybe
I-
after friendly 40B, you could just put parentheses joint application.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put joint application. That's a great terminology,
As
really.
opposed to the other two, which is joint with town, are those also joint applications? It's
Well,
different.
they're not applying to the state for a 40B, so they're separate. I don't think Washington Swanton it's not a 40B. It's just they are going to come in and build units the way we've asked them to, which they
Right.
have to, because in order to buy the land, they have to follow the sales.
They would, so they would be still going through a 40B, I believe, meaning
Oh,
that
that's right,
it would be
because-
through the zoning board of appeals,
Yes,
and they
yes,
would be
yes,
getting a
'cause-
project eligibility letter and, the same
Yeah,
process.
so that will also be a lip. Thank you, because they
Yeah.
it's not zoned, so they have to override the zoning, and they can only do that. So
Exactly.
Washington and Swanton is also a joint application because of the zoning.
Well, can we actually say joint application with town /lip? And it makes people learn what a lip is?
Yes, we can certainly do that, because of zoning.
I mean, not like we
So we'll include lip.
as opposed to Waterfield, which is a land lease with a application, but
It's a special permit. It's a special permit is what it's going to be
special
coming in
permit on leased land.
on leased land, correct?
Right,
That's the difference.
and it's not changing the zoning. That's just the key thing.
Mhm. Okay, I just don't, I'm thinking about it from a town meeting member point of view.
No, I
What does
appreciate that.
words mean?
I appreciate that. So
There's there's a mistake here. This is two
Oh.
units of affordable.
wait, hold on.
87 to 89 Cross Street is a
There's two
total,
units?
it's a total of 9,
Okay,
and 2 of them are affordable at 50% of AMI. This is a
Okay.
huge,
It is a huge get.
this is a
Okay.
huge deal for the town. The difference between 50% AMI and 80% AMI, those rents coming in are about half the rents. So this is
Okay,
great.
thank
This
you.
is great. I mean, two units, 4 families. I mean, 2 units that are FOR, 4 families. At 50% AMI is
yeah.
is
no,
great.
that's-
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. I got that wrong. Okay,
Good, this is cool.
so
But
that
Are
is,
you gonna total up? Do you want to do totals?
I will change the total.
Where, I don't see the totals anywhere. At the
It's right-
bottom, I mean, like how many affordable units?
Oh, it's crazy. I chose not to do that because this isn't really, it doesn't give us,
It's not official. It's not official, so it
It
doesn't.
doesn't, and it's not by their rules, it's just,
And I
okay, I
wouldn't.
get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that this is what's in press kind of thing.
yeah,
and
because we can't count the lower 3 until they're permitted. So,
Right, no, I get that. Okay, good.
okay, so then
Right.
I think we're done. Thank you for the comments. Okay, so this is where I bring out the fact that because the town is holding on to the land, it can actually produce many more affordable units. And this is because the people buying Washington Swanton have to pay $4 million some dollars, which could have gone into producing units, but is going into the purchase of the sale price of the land. So just an indication that if the town holds on to land and puts in affordable housing, we can actually sometimes get more housing units,
That's an excellent point to make.
because it's the real estate. So, okay, so that's what this was all about. So it's the same slide with just these little bubbles calling this out. So then this is just SHI. We haven't done anything since spring, so this is just the same stuff we have as last time, just formatted a little differently. So I'm scrolling through. These are all, we still lost our safe harbor. We're still out of it. We still need to permit 40 units and we're nowhere near that. We might be near that in a couple of years.
Yeah, is that if we do 40 units to regain safe harbor? Because it says maintain, but if we lost it, would it be to regain?
Yes, we would have to do at least 40 units and we would be back in safe harbor, but then we have to continually, yes.
So it's to regain and then maintain.
Yes, so.
Because nobody, I mean, if we're done, I mean, if we're out.
Yeah, so rewrite. What slide number is this?
If we do it for 1 year, but not the next year, do we still have it?
No.
So yeah,
It has,
it's in a given year. So if it's November 1st. So if November 5th, something gets approved by the ZBA, for example, it would retroactively start on November 5th, and it would be for 12 months that we would have safe harbor status. So the time starts, and it has nothing to do with an appeal, has nothing to do with anything. It's when the ZBA approves it. That's when we would be able to turn away a 40B that we did not want starting on that day.
And so it would be interesting for town meeting members to understand, in order to have 40 units a year to regain, and then every 40 units a year after that to maintain our status, where are we at this year so far?
We're at 0.
Zero.
Okay, that needs to be said.
Yeah, so we have 0. We probably won't permit. I mean, the next one up on us is Civico. If they're going to submit their package to us this
December,
just based on how long it took 10 Converse, we're looking at a 4 to 5 month process. So we're not going to get a, let's assume that it's actually fast. So maybe March.
so we might achieve safe harbor status for 12 months starting in March 23.
I'm going to stop everybody. So it is a little bit different when you go. I don't want to get in the weeds here, but if it's a 40B, meaning going through the zoning board of appeals and a project eligibility letter, all the normal 40B, whether it's friendly or not, doesn't matter, just a 40B, that is when it gets retroactively approved. The safe harbor status. So like I said, this November 5th. Waterfield is not going to go through a 40B. They're going to be going through a special permit process and then deed restricting the units through the state. Because of that, it does take a little longer. So I would imagine that, let's use this March date. If the planning board approves the Waterfield special permit in March, it may take a few months to actually get those units on the SHI, because there's just a different process when you go through a special permit and then deed restricting units. I do not think it makes sense to talk about that in the report. This is a very weird technicality that it just causes more confusion. So I would say that, that realistically, even though one might go before the other, it's possible they actually might get put on the SHI at the same time or around the same time, which would be the end of 23, beginning of 24. Something like that.
And the reason I'm drilling on that is because I get so many questions about, well, we've lost safe harbor. What's the planning board doing about that? Like, what's the town doing about that? So this safe harbor status is something that people want, but don't know what it is.
Yes.
I just as a clarification, if someone does ask that, you can say, well, we did buy Washington and Swanton. We are collectively doing something on Waterfield lot, and we are doing 87 and 89 Cross. So those are 3 developments that equivalent almost 70 units nearing that 80. So that we're working towards that 2-year safe harbor. So
that's
the proof is there. There's certainly work being done.
We have work in the book on the table that could give us 2 years safe harbor.
But I think it's also important to highlight that we are at the whims of the market here. I mean, there's only so much that either board can do. So, but I've discovered I cannot scroll your screen, Brian. So So this is just I'm teeing up North Main Street just because I'm going to be talking about it later. Are there notes on this page? Huh, no notes. That's odd. Oh, I think maybe this is out of sequence. Who knows? Yeah, let's go to the next page. I think the next page has it. Yes, that page shouldn't be there. Okay, because it's not in blue.
Yeah,
So
erase slide 14 in your notes.
I have July 14th.
Erase slide 14.
Oh, erase slide 14.
Yeah, slide 14 is
Yes,
is
erase
a
slide
mistake.
14. Okay. And it's important you erase them from the bottom up. Okay. So I'm going to talk about it later. So I didn't really put a lot in here, just a heads up. I put a lot of there's more on the 3A stuff coming up. So just a brief intro here, letting you know we're working on it. You can scroll up on this. I'm going to put a small plug in for the ADU stuff that we're going to be presenting later. Not too much. So scroll that up.
Super quick, Deb.
Yeah.
This is planning for 10 minutes?
Yeah. So
okay.
I'm
a little
knives to come out.
I'm looking at 30 slides is what I'm
at. But these are just parts of slides, right?
I guess yeah, I see so it's probably
I'm uncovering. Each slide is a different uncovering. So
gotcha. I get you. So it's the animation version of the PowerPoint, which that makes more sense. Sorry.
Okay. Sally, you were saying something?
Oh, it's just because at town meeting, you won't have me interrupting you.
Oh, well, you can interrupt me now then.
No,
yes.
I've been doing too much.
Okay, so then this just again teeing it up for later. I haven't gotten to that part yet, so let's slide up. Keep going. We are still, I believe, on track for starting it up this month. So that's good news, and we still need people. Scrolling up, and then the tree working group is I just put in a little plug on that, and the tree working group is planning on presenting to the parent boards very soon. I don't think it'll happen before town meeting, just because there isn't time, but so that's coming in. And I could you scroll down, please? I used the words arboreal ecosystem because it was late in the morning and I couldn't come up with something a little cleaner. In the notes, if you scroll up, Brian, go straight in the arboreal ecosystems. There's a better word for that, but I could not think of it. So any suggestions?
Tree world.
Tree world? That sounds like a theme park.
The treetop biome.
Oh, I like that.
Tree environment.
The tree environment. Okay, I will take those all and write them down.
Or tree landscape, something like that.
Yeah, tree world environment. Okay, so there's that a small thing. So then we go to the MBTA. So what I've done here is I sliced out just the important parts of the actual wording from the act that apply. Reasonable size, permitted as of right, and then the other two ones which really have there's nothing to discuss without age restrictions suitable for families with children. That's just
what it is.
That's black and white or binary or however you want to say it. Okay, so this is where I give a little bit of introduction. And I think the key thing here, and I don't know if you had a chance to read the updates that came out just last week or on the 21st, is they've actually relaxed the definition of affordable housing. And they really, I think it's very clear that they're looking to make housing affordable. They are not targeting what we would call, in quotes, affordable housing.
Right.
So they're actually putting restrictions on how much you can require of units that are below market rate. And I think I express this later on, I think they're doing this so that communities which are who don't want the development can't simply say, oh, we're going to say you must have 50% affordable housing, knowing that will prevent it from ever being built. So that is my thought, is that the reason they're putting these low limits on the required affordable housing by right is just to prevent people from using that as a way of preventing development. I hope that makes sense. In any case, as we continue here,
Sorry, Deb, I would very much, I think you should add 2 words to this slide. Aim is to make housing more affordable near transit. Like the whole point
okay, near
is
transit.
about MBTA. I mean, it's all about near transit. Like that is the reason for this. It's put the density near the transit, not anywhere, put it near there.
Okay,
That's true, because for example, when the red line was all set to open in Medford, red line, green line, whichever
Green
it
line.
was, green line, the rents spiked.
oh, yeah, there's a lot of evictions going on in there right now too.
So that's
So-
not working.
It's, you know, it's a story of when you go into a neighborhood which has been in long-term, I'm not going to use the word decline, but under resourced, that the housing prices are depressed because the houses aren't taken care of. And as soon as you bring in, we don't have a way of improving an area without forcing people out. It's just not part of the way anything gets done in this country. It's a historic thing.
That's right. No, I know
So
what you're saying.
it's horrible, but change slide 21, put near transit. And I also wonder, Brian, if the reason why they use this is because this is how they can use I think they're leveraging MBTA. Key. Okay. So let's zoom up. So this is the carrots and sticks page. It's mostly stick. So these are actually the 3 things that are right in the legislation. And I don't have a good sense of what those monies help us do. So I would welcome, Brian, maybe a very short.
I have all that information.
Yeah,
We can beef this up a little bit.
Yeah, let's beef this up a little so people understand that there is actually some benefit to us doing this. So that's pretty much all this slide says is, if you don't do it, you don't get these funds. Boom.
Yeah, what I do is I would list a couple of, project types that we would work towards in Winchester for some of these programs. And we'd be like, some things that we would be missing out on are, and we could go through that. So I have all that information.
Okay, great. And then I do put at the last sentence on this slide, if you scroll up a bit, I mean, we're in good shape. This is not a stretch for us to reach this, to come into compliance. So I think that's an important, I'm going to try to reiterate that we don't lose anything really by going this route. So we can slide up another slide. So then this is the reasonable size. So these are the specifics just for Winchester. So we need to zone for capacity, not for units, or I guess we zone for it. We don't have to build it. We need a minimum density of 15 units per acre. That hasn't changed. We have a minimum land area of 37 acres, and we only need 50% to be within a half mile of MBTA. So those are specific to us.
So I know you said zoning for up above, but when you just described it right now, you were saying, and it made sense to me, that Winchester's required to zone for minimum unit capacity of 1,200 units. Winchester is required to zone for minimum unit density of 15 units per acre. I mean, that was how you explained it to me the other day, and it made so much more sense.
So what I should do is change requirements for Winchester to perhaps zoning requirements for Winchester.
Winchester must zone for :
Okay, Winchester must zone for.
Because I just remember being in town meeting and not understanding what I didn't understand. And even here being like in it with all of us. It's
the
like
unknown unknowns, or also known as the circle of ignorance.
Thank
We'll talk about that later. It's a great concept, but we won't go into it now. So those are
good. Sorry.
Yeah, so those are, and then by right. So this is the other thing, is the 2 things we have to deal with in the zoning is the definition of by right, and this is taken straight out of the guidelines. And the key thing is you are allowed to have site plan, but as we know, site plan cannot be used to prevent. It can just impose reasonable conditions. So that is, those are the two, I think, the contentious parts of this.
Do we have to write anything specifically to incorporate site plan review in the drafting?
Yes,
Yes.
we are, this is saying we're allowed to do that. So
Yes.
nothing has been written yet. This is just
Okay.
kind of the rules, but
I mean, I would just suggest that we
it is likely we would. By the
Oh,
way.
yes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
definitely would. I think the key is that whatever you write in cannot be so onerous as to make it impossible for someone to develop. Because that will get, the courts will frown upon this.
Where does design review come in?
Or
Site
it comes
plan
under
review.
the site plan review if you want it. Remember, these are by right, so there's a limited range of things that you can do to a by right project.
Right, but Sally's point is that, so site plan review contains, reasonable scale and care. Like in our site plan review, in any site plan review, there's always some type of design element.
Right,
So,
so I
yeah.
don't think town meeting members know that site plan review includes design review, but it doesn't necessarily include the design review committee. Is that right?
No, it would, but I want to be very clear that there's no such thing as design review outside of the center business district in Winchester. Meaning the design review committee reviews all ZBA permits and they review it, but there is not a specific thing like, oh, well, it has to go through this design review. It's like, no, it's site plan review, and some of those aspects of site plan review are design considerations.
Right.
But in the center business district, there is something called design review. Outside of the center business district, there is no such thing as design review.
So, that's very helpful.
Okay, well, what happens when there's a review for the ZBA and design review opines?
What
That
they're
is-
reviewing is the site plan review. There's no separate process.
Could we write in that, just write them in? Could we just do that?
Of course. I think people are confusing the word design review committee and what they do with design review.
Right.
Right.
I mean, and also we do have a site plan review that's fairly laid out as well. So I mean, we can use that. I mean, as long as no one is blocking anything,
Yes.
we can use the language that we have, and we're just not allowed to block anything. That's all, which we're not.
Yeah.
Right, we would keep most likely the same language that we have right now. Right now, you need site plan review in the GBD 2 and 3 for, all lots that are more than 7,500 square feet. So that would just stay. Like, I want to, Diab, I think the word you should be using here in all of this is the word tweaks. We need to tweak the zoning in order to make it comply. We do not need to drastically change anything.
Zoning tweaks. Right. Right, so we have, this doesn't change much. It just allows, the key thing it'll change for us is that we will have to try to figure out how we, if we want to incentivize particular types of building, because if we decide, yeah, we really would like to have more commercial, so how do we incentivize someone to build commercial? Because by right, they don't have to. Well, that would change our current zoning, which, but this is, they're tweaks. So why don't we move on? I've lost my agenda here.
Yeah, so we got 5 minutes, at least according
Yeah.
to the agenda.
Yeah, so let's keep scrolling here. So here, this is a little, so the affordability requirements, I call them minimal because they really are. They're not going to help Winchester move towards SHI. They are really, they specifically call out the words workforce housing.
Mm-hmm.
And they've changed their affordability so that you can be above 80% of the AMI. And you have to actually get a third-party consultant to show that you will not be making it more difficult to build if you choose to go to a higher level of affordability by right. So there's significant obstacles, I think.
As a point of reference here, I think we would most likely keep what we have, which is 10% which is current. So right now there's inclusionary zoning in our center business district and the GBD 2 and 3, which is 10% at 80 and 5% 80 to 120. 80 to 120 is known as workforce housing.
Oh, I
So
didn't know that. Okay, that's good to know.
So there, we do have to see whether or not that extra 5% is going to, we will need a special dispensation for that. But that's for the lawyers to worry about. I'm not going to worry about that right here. So scrolling up, what do we have next? Okay, so impact on town, minimal. We're most likely going to be using the GBD 2 and 3 to get our full thing in. We have existing density, which is already higher than we need, so this is not a big deal. And so I just say that we don't make any changes. We only need to zone for the density requirements. We don't actually have to do anything. We're not going to build it. It's, you know, perhaps if we zone it, they will build, but.
Can
in
I
any case-
ask that you put exceeds MBTA requirements, because it's not clear what requirements they're exceeding. In
Okay,
this
sure.
case, it's exceeding the MBTA.
Exceeding
requirements.
section 3A. I forgot to I kept wanting to pull in section 3A because that's what we're going to be calling it from now on. So on
I think
page 20
anywhere you put multifamily zoning for MBTA communities in parentheses, you should put 3A because.
So I'll change the title on this as well. Yeah,
Right, and then in the second bullet,
yeah,
existing density in town exceeds
exceeds,
3A or already exceeds 3A requirements or whatever.
exceeds.
Oh, existing means already. Okay, yes.
Okay. Yeah, do we actually have to put that up? Existing by right density. Maybe we don't have to do this. I was looking at, this is one thing that will be different. Is currently, in order to put in the density that we're talking about, you need to put in a commercial unit. And I think what we've seen is people, they put in a throwaway commercial unit because they want to get the 4 residential units on top because that's where their money is.
I thought the simple way to say this is that you can now do multifamily without a first floor required commercial.
Yeah, what I was trying to say here was that the existing density goes up to, I believe, 20 plus per acre existing if you put in a commercial unit currently.
And that can exist. And most likely what would happen here is, so like you said, right now, the existing density is 20 plus units per acre. So the only way you can do that is with a commercial on the first floor. So you do that in form of an incentive where you say the base zoning is 15, but if you put commercial on the first floor, you can get up to 20. So, and all that's saying is what exists right now. So again, small tweaks, we're already there. We just got to get the language right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's this one. And then there's a schedule. And then I do need a little more on exactly what's in the plan. The compliance application is essentially, we have created zoning, which does it. Please check us off, look at our zoning.
Well, so yeah, the action plan is basically saying what you've talked about here is that we plan to use an overlay district, but that incorporates the CBD and the GBD 2 and 3, and we plan to comply by this date. Like that's like the whole action plan. I just said it in 5 seconds. Like that is the whole action plan, and I have to fill out. It's like a 5-page form.
That's what I'll say.
That's the clearest summation I've heard so far. So thank you, Brian.
So that's pretty much it for this. So I think that's the end of this one. And then we jump into this. And I know it looks like I just threw a bunch of pictures up there, but I did this very carefully. So this one I'm a little at a loss, and we're already running pretty long in this presentation. So I don't know how much I want to put up a slide and talk and have people look at these images and try to use their brain and their eyes to wander around and see that some of these are existing and some of these are visions of what it'll look like.
Will you have a laser pointer?
I could use a laser pointer, or I just, part of it is I'm just going to be talking here and allowing people to explore. And maybe that's too much.
So
I
Um,
don't get that, Dia. Can I comment about, I think the strongest image that I got from Foreman Place was at the upper right, and that juxtaposed with the upper left together, if you put them a little bit, is that the two that they showed? If you
There-
put them
yes.
together
Yep.
and show that difference, or the rendering on the lower right, I suppose.
Oh, wait, no.
Yes, it's the rendering in the lower right and then the upper left. Those
No, those
two
are actually, yes, I
different
think, yes,
streets.
you're correct. Yeah, no, you're right. I get it's, yes. Okay.
So
Wait.
that difference and the way that they show that change and how these operations can change the feel of that street was, I think, the most powerful. And in our last meeting that we just approved too, it was about making those changes on the street in order to incentivize development, right? And to bring development in. So this looks way too confusing for me. If you put
Okay.
those two together, and then maybe, I think that people aren't understanding the scope of the work. So like one of the MAPC maps that shows the scope of it on a flat map, I think would be helpful just for people to understand how much we're thinking of
Okay,
the
so,
SWAT. It's a little bit too hard for people who aren't exposed to this work to
Okay.
get what they need from this, I think.
yeah, so there's, so unfortunately, this is so small that I can't even see what's going on. Brian, could you make it wider, please? Yeah, so the upper left image goes with the bottom right image.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the ones, so that's essentially the Canal Street intersection. So I have Canal Street before and after. The overhead view, we'll cut that one out.
You could put the plan, like Ching was saying, you put the plan view of the whole GBD 2 and 3 of the project area, you know, like of the
Yeah.
visioning area, saying, what are we even talking about?
Yeah.
So the lower left and the bottom right are essentially the same area, but one is at a pedestrian view and the other one's at a bird's eye view. So which would you prefer?
Oh, wait, upper left and lower right.
Lower left and
Maybe
lower
we can
right.
work on this together too, Diab.
Okay.
I don't want to take too
That's
much
good.
time.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's
You're
a
So,
great
going a
idea,
little bit
Ching.
over, but yeah.
yeah, so I
Good.
don't have any words for this yet. So I was just going to describe the process we're going through. I don't think we want to start talking about the fits down on North Main Street yet, because I think it's just too complicated. I think we decided that
Very.
we just concentrate more on, I just want to get people to have a vision, this idea of what it could look like. So, and
I think I Ching's point, just to use the upper left and the lower right, and your words are to say that these images represent the complete streets part of this project that we're in. And this is to show you in a sketchy form what it could look
Sure.
like.
and
With
the other-
these small
yeah.
interventions, right? Like the shorter
Yeah.
streets and then the bikeways and things like that.
Yeah, so one of the things I like about the upper right picture is it actually shows how the street is being divided into
Mhm.
zones. And
Yeah, that's
I would
helpful
like
too.
something like that as well, so people get an
Right.
idea of the
I
engineering.
Ching,
that's
could you
going into
grab
it.
that diagram and
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I've got all of these. I can throw most of these away and, okay, so that's North Main Street
Great.
visioning. I didn't have an awful lot for this, just because we don't have a lot of results to show for this yet. But I think the overhead picture of, where this is, it's really hard for people to envision it. But,
Yeah, I mean, it is called Holton, so you do call it Holton Swanton Cross. And I think, but in reality, we're really talking about everything in purple. We're talking
Yes.
about the IL district. And
Yeah.
I think just to let everyone know that is what we're talking about, the light industrial district that you can see here in purple. And here's the,
okay,
I was thinking about that Holton Swanton Cross, and what I realized is that there's a Holton Swanton analysis, which is the purple that Brian said. And there's also a cross street study that has to do with connectivity and also River Street traffic and safety
Yep.
on at Lowell Ave and
It's a,
Holt-
yeah,
that-
it's a corridor study that
Right,
was.
so
yeah,
that's a corridor study, but they're kind of separate things. And this photograph, I was having the hardest time matching it with the plan. Is that the rail line in
Yeah,
both?
the easiest way is to look at the north-south rail here.
Yeah. And that's what
North-south
you see there.
rail, north-south rail.
Yeah, okay, so but I would take out Cross Street from this picture and this slide because they're two different studies, but they overlap.
No, but we have people, we have this, there is IL on Cross Street.
No, yeah, I mean, these are the streets that are part of the study.
Right, we talked about this, Sally. Cross Street needed to be included because people understand Cross Street and
Yeah, and
Swan.
there's a
Here.
little section
Right,
right
it's
off of
this-
Cross Street that we are still talking about. Right there.
So, yeah,
Okay, I understand, okay. My
This
mistake. Thank
this
you.
narrow parcel right here, just
Right.
as a frame of reference, is the tile logistics right here. So if you figure that,
Right,
that should orient you.
Maybe I
Yes.
should draw some lines between them, some discrete lines
Or
connecting.
just a box here with a box here
Yeah.
showing
but the focus of your words then would be about the purple areas.
Yes, it would be, I would be calling out the purple areas. And not saying much because we still don't have a lot.
The
Although I
thing
do
that-
need, I do want to put up the link to the survey because I think it's still going.
Yes,
I believe the survey has been closed as of
no,
2 weeks ago.
Oh,
but
dear.
why? Can't you open it? Because this is such a good PR for it to get more data.
We could, but we
We need to talk.
it was
also-
up for many months, and now
Right, I don't
they're analyzing it now. So
Oh, maybe we need our advertising budget back.
We need to hire an
Killing me,
advertiser. We
killing
need
me
to
here.
hire marketing. That's what we need to do. We're lousy at it.
some
So link
computer
across
supplies, maybe.
pictures to
some-
features. Okay. And hopefully I'll understand. Okay, so that is the end of what I have. And I am going to, I think that will easily fill the 10 minutes. There's not much, and if I've left something out, if you think the focus is wrong, now's the time to yell at me. Because otherwise, essentially, we're signing off on this because the town moderator wants us to sign off on everything that's presented to town meeting to ensure that it does reflect the views of the board. So if you feel like I've left something out or something's awry, and I think Sally has put down a lot of the background in terms of where we come from the master plan, etc. So that the gist of all of that will be in the notes and what I say. So I hopefully will not surprise anyone.
Are you showing these images?
I am not. No, there's no time for those. Those, I think that I've shown some of them before. And it's, yeah, so no.
Just a quick point here that so it's 8:15.
Yep.
And between now and 9:10, we're going to be talking about the ADU bylaw presentation and discussion, and then any potential town meeting votes, but about Washington, Swanton, CPA, and the leaf blower bylaw. It's possible we might, we don't have the LDA in front of us for Washington and Swanton, so it's possible that we'll have to wait a little bit on that. But the idea is that we have about 1 hour to go through 4 things: ADU, Washington and Swanton, CPA, leaf blower.
Right. So if there are no other comments, you can always send Brian any further comments about the presentation. But if you all are, I'd like to just get a consensus from the board so I can at least stand up at town meeting or tell the town moderator that the board is in general agreement with the presentation. Everybody wave their hands. Okay,
I think you have your work cut out for you in terms of timing, to be honest.
Yeah, I always do. Okay.
But yeah, I'll
So-
stop there.
So let it, how do we say that? Let the record show that the board has all waved at me in agreement. No roll call required. Okay, let's hop on to the ADU bylaw, and now we turn the show over partly to Brian. So the idea here is that we have about 10, maybe 15 minutes to present the ADU bylaw. Nominally, we have 10, but we're probably going to ask for more. We are constrained as to who can speak. I note that we do have a lot of co-sponsors on this, so the amount of time could be split between many parties. But currently, the thought is that I, as the chair, would introduce the general philosophy. Brian would follow up with the discussion of the technical details. Then we would have Kathy Boyle, who is on the Housing Partnership Board and also on the Winchester Housing Authority, which has not taken a position on this, will present the impact it will have on particular populations. And there is, I believe, the select board will be probably Michael Betancourt will speak as well. And we need to check back with him, Brian, and understand how that's going to be done. The Council on Aging, Tom Howley, will be speaking separately because they are an endorser, not a sponsor. They chose to do that so they could speak separately. And I think that's all I know about in terms of speaking. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to go through this. I'm going to put the PowerPoint up. And it's really, we're going to go slide by slide. If there are questions or anything, we're just going to kind of go through that. So let me bring it up here. So as Diab said, the co-sponsors of this article right now are the 4 boards: Planning Board, Select Board, Housing Partnership, and Affordable Housing Trust. The endorsers are the Council on Aging. This is actually, they have not had a vote yet. So this should be highlighted.
Yeah, they've had to delay their meeting till next week on the 10th. So
and then the Board of Health did vote to endorse as well.
I think we should put down there, they voted 2-1.
Well, I don't think I'm going to put the votes down here.
Okay, it was a split vote.
Yeah,
but,
if it comes up, that's fine. But
okay.
at this point, I don't think
Okay.
I should. Not that anyway.
Okay.
Okay. This slide should look very familiar to you. This is outlining the talk for town meeting, that there's an introduction, essentially a small pitch, then the explanation of the bylaw, and then the benefits to residents by Kathy Boyle of the Housing Partnership Board. I'm going to probably go a little quicker than I normally would. But please just interrupt. Not that I'm, please just interrupt. Okay. So we always kind of start off with some type of why do we need this? These are all animated so that we're not seeing all of these at once. It's going to be listed, one as I speak. So this is kind of an overview of what types of populations we're trying to target and why. It's mainly people with disabilities and seniors. So people with disabilities struggle to have stable housing. That increases financial and emotional stress on families, which leads to mental and physical health impacts of these individuals. And it actually really forces them to leave town. One thing that we really should mention, and a lot of questions that I've heard, is that, I don't know if I want, not me, this is somebody, comments that I've received of people moving into town specifically for, because they have a disability. And it's this is actually to help out current residents. I want to make this very clear that this bylaw is to help out current residents. Yes, Sally, please.
The people with disabilities struggle to have stable housing. You're putting that up as a reason why we need the bylaw, but what I don't know is the reason that they struggle. Is it because they have disabilities, or is it because stable housing costs too much?
It's because they are not in control of the housing. And when they do find housing, they have to, Kathy Boyle said it much better than I.
Wait, it is further down, but meaning in the presentation.
Okay.
Okay.
But
I'll hold off
if,
then.
yeah, if that question is not answered later, then
Yeah,
please.
good,
Yep.
sorry.
Hey, Brian,
Um,
one quick comment too on that same point that you were just making, though, just from a wordsmithing standpoint, would it be more clear and maybe resonate more so if instead of saying people, we said residents with disabilities and like senior residents are forced to leave town?
Yeah,
To make it
yeah.
clear that we're talking about Winchester residents.
Yeah,
Winchester seniors.
whoa.
Yeah, Winchester seniors, that's a great idea. Yeah.
or whatever language you're using there, yes.
Don't worry about spacing here, but I will.
And then also change the word forces individuals to forces residents.
Winchester
right above it,
seniors.
the bullet right there, yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Anything else on this slide? Okay. So the existing obstacles, and not, why do we need this, but like, why can't people do this now? So current zoning results in larger, expensive housing. This has to do with minimum lot size, so the majority of the districts in town are above 10,000 square feet. But really the answer is that there's really kind of limited, smaller multifamily options where people can afford. And because of that, it prevents these small units in town close to family and natural supports. Anything here?
Can we change natural supports to natural support systems? Just so it's the same wording.
Mhm.
We're trying to use that phrase a lot.
Throughout, yeah, you're right.
I don't understand what you mean by minimum lot size, because we do have 6,500 square foot lots here.
Right, but the majority are 10 and 20.
Right, and you're saying that the current zoned lot sizes encourage larger houses.
Well, the
Essentially.
fact that the minimum lot size is that big, the larger the lot,
The bigger the house.
typically one very large problem, Sally, that here in town is that the smaller, modest size houses are being torn down and then being maxed out for doing a by right project out to the setback.
Right, and the reason that's allowed to happen is because we have all these 10,000 and up lots, and that zoning with smaller lots would somehow prevent these larger expensive houses from dominating the construction. Is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the idea is that if the standard, for instance, like Medford lot, that's like 5,000 square feet. They have tons and tons of these 5,000 square feet. So you can only build so big if it's 5,000 square feet.
Right.
So that's kind of this smaller
And
version.
It's also the lot size and the single family zoning, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Right,
I
well,
actually, I think
yeah.
the single family zoning is actually the more impactful point on this, right? Because
So
I mean,
maybe I switch these.
you're okay with the large properties. You just wish they were 4 units, right? I mean,
That's, I mean, if the board wants to go there, I'm willing to go there.
Well, I mean, that addresses it here. That's I mean, this
Yeah.
is
You're
just
saying it in a different way.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
the other side of the coin. You
Yeah.
can say
Like a
that
softer
limited,
way, perhaps.
Yeah.
I guess.
So I think the other thing to note here is that the large lot size means you're paying a lot of money for your land. And so you're gonna put in a big house because you spent a lot of money. The reason why we're seeing large houses on smaller lots is because those are the lots that are least expensive to buy and you get the most profit on. So, I mean,
I just get confused by the word minimum, and then it says 10,000, because I know people know they live in a zone that's 6,500.
Right,
Yeah.
maybe you don't even have to say a 10,000. It's just a minimum lot size.
yeah, minimum lots, minimum, I would, yeah, because most are 10 and up but
So really your point is, majority of lots in Winchester are 10,000 and up.
well, we're talking about the zoning, so it's not necessarily specifically the lots. It's the zoning. It's the zoning.
Right.
So
what would you change about the zoning that you wouldn't have larger expensive housing? You would have more smaller lots.
I'm not advocating for this. What we're saying is that if, for instance, the minimum lot size was 4,000 square feet, that 10,000 square foot lot would be able to have two separate units, and therefore,
I
they would
see.
be more modestly
Okay.
sized, and they would be not affordable by any stretch of the mean, but more, more modestly priced.
Now I get it. Thank you. Sorry.
The power of the market.
Any other potential word changes here?
The only thing, yeah, so Brian, and again, this is like super minor and maybe it's just the way my brain works, but I did also struggle with like just following the point of this slide. So I'm wondering if maybe just saying current zoning encourages larger expensive housing, for me at least, like maybe explains a little bit more.
Yeah, we
than
struggled with
result.
that
Me too,
word
Kurt.
We,
I agree.
because we were like, we're not encouraging it. But
Well,
yeah,
It
it's,
does though. It encourages this and it prevents, or it doesn't
Yeah.
prevent.
yeah.
But Brian, I think your point being like that large lots are expensive and to justify,
so then
you know,
maybe
the
we just get,
expense of a lot.
maybe we get rid of minimum lot size and just say the majority of zoning districts are
Yeah,
for
yeah,
10,000
that's
square
true.
foot, like, maybe we just
Yeah.
take that. We just do that.
Yeah, I
Just
think that's a
specifically
good
the
idea.
majority of zoning districts
Our minimum.
are a minimum
10,000 square feet.
10,000 square feet, which are rather large and promotes, okay, so that,
Yeah,
that
so
that does
that's-
make a little bit more sense then.
And we can put words in there,
Okay,
spoken words.
I'm gonna
so.
try to keep moving.
Yes, please.
Again, not trying to like push this through, just trying to talk fast, to be honest. This is still Diab, by the way. This is all Diab here, just so
All
we're
me.
clear at the moment. This is Diab talking on why we need this, why we're here, kind of like the pitch. So now we're getting into, well, what are we even talking about on how to solve this? Again, this slide has not changed at all in like 2 months. Any questions?
My only question was, it seemed like these, like, I think the first point is defining what an ADU is, and then the second two are describing two different types. Like those seem like all three are not the same category, right?
You're
Like
yeah.
I almost feel like it should be like a granny flat, and then the next two bullets should be like sub bullets, and there should be the word or between them.
Okay, so why don't we take the bullet off the first one,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and then. And these are just essentially two different parts of the definition.
They're two different like manifestations of an ADU, right? They can either be a secondary dwelling within, or they could be an independent.
But
Right,
in both cases, it has to have a separate entrance, living, sleeping, kitchen and bath.
yeah,
So
they are
good
orthogonal in a
point.
sense.
that,
Yeah.
just take those last few words and put it above, and then it could be either or and independent.
I mean, both of them it has to meet both of these. So,
Yeah, these
has
are
to be a-
requirements. These are requirements of what an
Oh, got it.
ADU are. So this is what they're also called by, and in town ADUs are not allowed. And this is really the definition. This is
Right,
the
and then the-
definition. Yeah.
And then I would just take out independent of primary structure, because it sounds like you mean detached.
so let's just call
Just
it,
do separate. We'll just
or
do,
just do an independent unit.
Right, just say separate
Just-
entrance. No, right there, that's it. Separate entrance. Living and sleeping, kitchen and bath. Boom.
Yeah, I like the word independent unit in there. It really gives in a concept.
it is in the definition, the word independent.
So let's,
How
I
about
would
if you
say,
say a secondary comma independent.
Yeah, I like that too, Sally. Secondary independent dwelling.
Although you can take out secondary at that point. Oh, no.
No, it
No,
has to be
no.
second. No,
Gordon
it
said
has
it's
to be
secondary.
secondary. It has to be
Yes.
secondary. Yeah.
yeah,
Got it.
because we differentiate between primary and secondary, so, or primary and accessory, doesn't matter. Okay,
All right, so it changed in 2 months. This slide changed. Great.
it's called evolution.
Evolution. Here we go.
Oh, no.
Let me make sure that's saved. Okay. And what makes our bylaw a little bit different is that the populations that are being served. So pretty much every other community doesn't talk about individual with disabilities and talk about seniors and talk about anybody other than there are familial relationships in other bylaws. So some of them have to talk about families, but this is unique to Winchester, that this is a very targeted, it's just a very targeted bylaw in terms of who it's trying to help, regardless of whether it's family or not.
But not completely without precedent because it was put through the state.
The state one was similar, yes.
The state one this is what the state was.
Yes,
It failed, but this is what
But on a technicality, to be honest, it should have gone through. And I also just replacing the word individual with persons or persons.
persons.
Residents, you said,
Yes, residents
well,
or,
I don't know, as
Well,
defined.
they don't.
No,
You don't
no,
have
no,
to be a
no, no.
resident though.
oh yeah, MGL.
Massachusetts general law doesn't define your.
Yeah, we don't want to confuse the fact that like we're asking for
Right.
only
Yes.
already existing Winchester people.
I want to say that the question has come to me that we're gonna need to explain exactly what housing vouchers and support services persons with disabilities.
Kathy will do that, right?
Yeah, yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, because
Yep.
that came up to me, and of course, I don't know the details of
Yep.
that one.
So yes, that's explained further. Again, this is actually, I'm wondering if this is still, no, this is Diab's last slide right
Yep.
here. This
And
is
then
Diab's
can
last
we-
slide. Okay, anything else on this one? Okay. So, this is kind of a refresher. I decided to kind of put in a lot of, been hearing a lot of comments about by right. We get these literally every year of like, oh, by right, so no review. You just approve this thing, right? And we want to make very clear. So what does by right mean? What does special permit mean? What does site plan review mean?
Can we, I guess, have some time to sort of unpack? I don't think we've really had the opportunity as a board to unpack the relative benefits of by right versus special permit. It seems like by right has been pushed sort of from the beginning as kind of a fait accompli. And I guess when I saw that report showing that only one of the other towns had by right and the others were special permit, it made me think, oh, well, maybe we don't have to accept this as a fait accompli. Maybe we can talk about it. Because I know we spend a whole lot of time with Richard Leaf. We had the design review committee in last time. And we know that design review is important for a town like Winchester. And I'm wondering why are we waiting? Why don't we start now with special permit and design review? Why do we have to have it? You know, I guess what I really want to do is just sort of hear the other side a little bit. Because I feel like the by right has really been, at least in my perception, it's sort of been pushed.
Well, I think that should have been talked about before this board voted twice to put it on the warrant.
Well, I didn't see that graphic with the fact that no other town had by right. I think it would be a. So I, you know,
Are you
the way
advocating for?
the way it was going gangbusters. I just had the sense that there was no point in speaking up about it. But this would be a problem for me. Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm trying to figure out so are you saying that you would like to introduce a something on the floor of town meeting as a change? Or what is
I'm not thrilled at introducing something on the floor of town meeting, although
That's pretty much where it has to be.
That's what you're
done.
saying.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to get a sense. I'm not trying to make an argument out of this. I just want to be clear that I think we need to talk about it.
So why don't we spend a little bit of time of talking about it, and I'm trying to understand what the benefits you see of the by right that aren't already encompassed by we do have design review coming in here. They're part of the process in terms of the ZEO signing off.
Okay, well, all right, if we don't do special permit, I don't understand why we're not doing special permit, but maybe what do we wait till next time to do special permit? And
Why do we need to do special permit, please?
because special permit is in place to protect the community and to help us get design review and to do all the conversations. It's a little extra effort. It's a little extra work for a lot of extra benefit.
But so if we want to do special permit, then why aren't, I'm going to flip this on you, Nick, and I'm going to ask, why aren't we doing special permit on all of the other additions that are going on in town? Why is it that this particular set of structures should undergo special permit when we don't require that of the hundreds of applications?
Are you asking me?
Yes. I'm asking why we should set these apart as different.
Are you asking me to opine on whether we should have special permit on the others? Or are you?
Yeah, because I'm asking.
I mean, is that being put in front of us?
No.
Is that even an option?
It's
why not start now? I don't understand.
So one of the reasons that housing is incredibly expensive is because of the hoops that people have to go through in order to get it. And so the idea of by right means that when you go and you get an architect and you pay money to design something, that if it's by right, you know that you're going to be able to build it. And so that lowers the cost because you know that you're not wasting your money because you don't have to go through a special permit. That's one reason.
Yeah, but I'm saying it takes a little extra effort, a little extra care to get a better result.
We do. Well, I'm gonna say then, again, I'm gonna get to the equity. Why do we, if we want to do this for all projects in town? So first of all, we don't have the capacity for that. The design review committee is not capable of meeting once a month and reviewing hundreds and hundreds of applications. So
why don't we do it the next time then? Why? I mean, I feel like this has kind of been pushed.
The reason why is because it's an obstacle for people that are vulnerable that need support services. It's an obstacle.
You don't have to give up one to get the other. You know, life is full of obstacles. I'm not trying to,
this would add one.
I'm not trying to put people that are disadvantaged and that are, in a terrible position.
But I think the key is Nick, is that my understanding is that you think that a special permit is not a significant obstacle. And yet, if we look at how most building is done, very little goes through a special permit.
All right, well,
because it is such an obstacle. Again, with the permits that we see go through the ZBA are a very small fraction of what actually goes through the system. So if we want to do design, and I think you're correct and you're concerned about the design.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a huge change. This represents a major change in Winchester.
Well, but
I just think that special permit would be a more prudent approach.
But you could build the exact same structure currently without a special permit. The only thing you won't get out of it is you don't get the certification. You can build the exact same thing without a special permit currently.
Exact same as what? I don't follow.
I could put an addition on the side of my house without going for an ADU, and it would be the exact same thing.
What? I don't understand why I'm getting so much resistance.
Because, well, I think in part because I think we don't understand what
this
the
is
benefit
the wrong.
is.
The reason why there's resistance is because the timing of this conversation makes no sense.
Well, as I said, and I know that this wasn't done, quote, behind closed doors, but there is a little lapse in time between when it's thought up of and when
every one of our meetings was public. Nick, every one of our meetings was public, and you could have zoomed in from your living room. We've met for the past year and a half.
Right, but I did not see them. I rely on what we discuss here. I don't know what to say. I guess my feeling is that they should have design review and be special permit. I don't know what to do with that.
It would have been fine if we had
hey,
talked about this
hey,
previously. I think
hey,
that
hey,
there's nothing wrong
Well-
with your position. I think it's the timing of the position that is a
Well,
little
because
strange.
the way it was put forward, I didn't think there was a shot at doing anything about it until I saw the graphic that
So-
no
so
other community
later-
had by
so
right.
later there's
We're the
a
only
workshop.
Not
ones.
true, Nick, though. That's not true.
Hey,
Wellesley
Brian.
has attached by right. Arlington has it's by right also. So those were the only communities that we showed that had that we compared with. But there are, tens, I don't know, it's like 80 some communities within
60
Massachusetts that have it. We didn't go
64
through them all.
64 out of the 100 communities around Boston have a bylaw that allows it. Not all of them are obviously by right, but what's different about Winchester is
All
that
right,
we
so
are
it
only.
took me a little while to
Well,
get up.
just, yeah, I'm kind of, just hold on.
All
So what's different about Winchester is that we are only targeting 2 populations. In every one of these other communities where there's potentially a special permit or something else, it's for anybody. It's not the same. It's just not the same. Again, I'm having,
Okay, well, they have it for anybody. So
But,
we don't have it
hey,
for
Brian,
anybody.
just like
We're making the decision, we're
procedurally-
making a decision about this. This is what's in front of us. Not the Diab had mentioned, well, why not for everybody, but we're not,
Well-
no one put that in front of us. We're not making that decision.
so then why would we
Kurt-
care what other communities are doing? I don't understand. I'll be
Can
honest.
we-
I'm going to
hold
stop
on one
talking.
sec.
I don't understand.
Kurt's been trying to say something for a
Okay.
bit.
I thought we said that, I guess maybe I feel like we spent a lot of time, maybe more time than we have just on this particular issue. I'm just questioning, like, procedurally, Brian, you said at the beginning of this that, Nick has these concerns and there's a path to addressing his concerns, which is at town meeting. He can, right, as I understand it, he can propose a change. So why don't we leave it in Nick's hands? If he wants to propose a change at town meeting, he can do it and move on. Like,
If Nick
can
is a
we
town
just move
meeting
on?
member, he can do that.
Nick is not.
No, I'm not. I'm not a town meeting member. I just would like to register my position.
I think it's like
Um,
crystal clear that you have concerns. I think it's probably on record now because this is being recorded. So I'm just wondering if we can just continue to move on.
That's fine.
Okay,
So
Brian.
this was you were describing sort of the tutorial part of your presentation, Brian.
So what by right means is that, not that it's like a rubber stamp and not that everything goes through. The whole point of by right projects is that it has to meet a whole bunch of restrictions and regulations. And then if it does that, then you can do it. So all restrictions of the bylaw must be met. You might, which we're gonna go through next, which is talking about the populations that we're talking about, as well as obviously all the zoning dimensions, like zoning regulations and dimensions. All of those need to be met. Stormwater needs to be met. And it's not like that there's no review here. So building department, engineering department, health department, possibly Concom, as well as there is the zoning enforcement officer is getting advice from the design review committee on what.
I would list them
on
here, Brian.
It will later. But this is just a general thing of what by right of what by right means. So here, these are the by right regulations. So first of all, if it is attached, if the ADU is attached, it has to be, depending upon your zoning district, it has to be, the setback. You can't violate a setback. So for instance, if D here is a setback, you can't, and you're putting an addition for an ADU, you can't violate that setback. If it's detached, just like any detached structure on the lot, it has to be in the rear yard, which is this red box. It has to be 5 feet from the property line, and it has to be a maximum of 1.5 stories. So if it's not any of those things, it is not by right. So that's what, these are the provisions that need to be met in order for it to be by right.
So Brian, so the last 2, max 1.5 and must be in red, those are actually sub bullets for detached.
Yes, thank
So
you.
those have to go in. And
Thank
I
you.
would
So
put the
Brian,
5 feet from property line as a separate bullet.
I thought that if you wanted to put an ADU in a garage that was legally 5 feet from the property line, that you had to get a special permit because residential space is not supposed to be more than 15 feet or 10 feet from the lot line. And that was because I think we had talked about that people don't want somebody living 5 feet from their lot line on the second floor. You know, it's this residential setback, or I should say dwelling setback, that I thought was being held at 15.
It has to do specifically with attached structures and detached structures. So attached structures from the house, it's not residential, it's attached structures are the actual setback. That's what the setbacks are. And then for detached structures, it is 5 feet.
There's
Right.
there's no limitation on the use.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that you could have a 5 foot from the property line and have like a living space up there.
yep. I have a neighbor who has that.
Okay.
So site plan review, again, really the difference between by right and site plan review is this review by the Zoning Board of Appeals with community feedback. Reasonable conditions can may be placed on the permit, and generally it may be denied only if it's related to health and safety. But site plan review generally cannot be denied. Special permit is only different is it may be denied for things that are other than health and safety. So this has to do with the restrictions that we have in the special permit criteria, which could be scale and character of prevailing neighborhood, and a host of other things. But the difference really between site plan review and special permit is that special permits may be denied for things other than health and safety. So this now gets into the proposed bylaw. So as we said, that the use is by right if all of those provisions were met. Only one ADU is allowed per lot. The owner or the trust beneficiary must reside in either unit. And at least one of the occupants in either unit, as said before, must be 62 years of age or disabled. There's a maximum of 2 bedrooms and a maximum floor area of 50% of the primary dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. So that is a max of 900 square feet. There has to be 1 dedicated off-street parking space. The exterior changes must be in a similar style as the dwelling unit, or I should say primary. Primary dwelling unit, and this is determined by the ZEO with a review by the Design Review Committee. There's a certification that's required annually and upon change of ownership to address potential Airbnbs. There's a minimum for any of the units that are going to be rented out. There's a minimum of a 30-day rental, and the zoning enforcement officer may inspect. So now this goes to Kathy Boyle in terms of a definition of disability. So what does that mean under Mass General Law? What we're really talking about is someone that has a mental or physical disability who is wholly or partially dependent upon others. And here it is, specifically to meet their daily needs, their daily living needs. So it's someone who is dependent upon others.
Can we change his to their?
This is the definition straight directly out of MGL. So I could change it, but this is the definition according to Mass General Law. I did have issues with it as well. And now we're getting into a little bit of data specific to Winchester. So in 2021, there's over 100 students in Winchester that had autism, some type of intellectual disability, a vision impairment or a hearing impairment that would qualify under as a disabled person. Disabled residents in town. So the census data for Winchester indicates that people with disabilities leave town by their late 30s. There are about 820 people aged 18 to 64 that are disabled in town, according to that definition. And this is an interesting fact, actually, that twice as many aged 18 to 34 have vision and cognitive impairments when compared to those 35 to 64. And what that means is that, like we said here, that people with disabilities are actually leaving town in their late 30s. And what does that actually mean? And that's where we kind of come in here. There's limited adequate housing near those natural support systems, which forces some of these people into a 2 to 3 year cycle of moving. So they're constantly having to move houses or units in order to that's what this data is showing, is that it's forcing them to move. It's forcing them to move into group
Because of the
homes.
cost?
It's because of the instability of the housing that they're in.
Why is it unstable?
Because
Kathy explained that at the forum, and I think she will do that again, but
Okay, good.
I think it's,
Thank you.
So what this does is it forces people into group homes or other types of public housing that really doesn't serve their needs and potentially could be dangerous, as we've seen during the pandemic. So this is kind of the big thing of why do this at all. Support services that are given from the state, they require the beneficiary to have a legal separate unit. So ADUs are one of the only options outside of more robust zoning changes that can actually do that. So one we talked about is, potentially changing minimum lot size to accommodate smaller units, or allowing more multifamily housing to accommodate smaller units like duplexes, triplexes, apartments. So this can provide those smaller ADUs can provide that option rather than making these zoning changes, which could potentially, even more drastically alter neighborhoods by splitting up lots. For instance, if you have, one large house on a 10,000 square foot lot, the idea is that under these types of drastic changes, you would have smaller lots and you would have two houses there instead of one, whereas you could keep that big house and put a small unit on the side.
So Brian, if you go back, the presentation of this slide, I think if someone's quickly scanning this slide, they'll say ADUs change the minimum lot size. So I think you have to, I think that you need to put, somehow make it clear that these are the other zoning alternatives and that ADUs don't actually cause those. And I don't know if that.
Yeah, I will rework that and get that out to the group for comment.
Hey, Brian, only other comment for consideration is, I think it's sorry, I'm trying to read. I think it's these three slides here that I think really define the population, or help define the population that we're trying to serve with this change. I'm wondering if the presentation would be better.
Sorry, which slide do you want me to go to? I'm sorry.
I'm just summarizing slides 13, 14, and 15. I'm wondering if these should be earlier in the presentation, where we start identifying who this is meant to serve, and then giving people clarity of, like, here's the definition. Again, really define the population we're targeting before we get to the solution, which is the ADU. So when I read these on my own, I feel like we started defining, who we're trying to target with this bylaw. Then we talk about what an ADU is, and all of a sudden at the end, there's like additional information back on who we're trying to serve. And I felt like it just jumped around a little bit.
I could see that. So maybe the idea is that Diab talks about the pitch in terms of why we need this. Then Kathy comes in to talk about the types of populations that it serves, and then I come in with the mechanics of the bylaw. I'm fine with that. Diab, I don't know, or
That
if
works.
anyone else.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
works.
I think that could make sense.
I'm just throwing it out to folks as a consideration, because again, I think that you're going to get, I think that really, really clearly identifying the target population, I think, is an important part of, what's being proposed. Because as you point out, different from other towns, we are targeting a very specific population with this proposal.
Yeah, I think that does. I mean, typically we do that where it's say why we need this, and then we show the solution.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I'm fine. I'm totally fine reworking those to make that happen.
I think that's a great idea, Kurt.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, that is it.
Oh, don't you have pictures? There's pictures at the end. Oh, thank you so much.
This is the last slide as a thank you slide, just
Okay.
showing some examples that are not in Winchester. People always ask, "Oh, is that blue house on?" And I was like, "No, I hardly ever show any houses that are actually in town on purpose."
Brian, I think it was the very first slide that had a different set of pictures, and I was going to ask you about it. Yeah, right. Where's that one in the middle?
Where from?
Correct.
Colonial Williamsburg. Jeez.
Shutterstock.
Do you know?
I can get.
I looked at it. I said, "Oh, I'll take that one."
Yeah, I mean, and this is honestly how it was built a while ago. And this was kind of just to show a nice older home that probably you could find in Winchester, where maybe there's a basement, or maybe this is the unit and you don't really know, and that's the point.
Yeah. Good, thanks.
Okay, so we are definitely a little behind here.
9 o'clock.
So we have three motions that are going before town meeting that the board may wish to make a statement on. And so we have the Washington and Swanton development, the CPA, and the leaf blower bylaw. So we don't, as Brian mentioned, we don't have the land disposition agreement yet for Washington and Swanton.
I think we're going to have to hold off on a vote on Washington and Swanton until, so we always meet the night of town meeting. Usually it's for 45 minutes or so before. So I think we're actually going to have to wait to have that official vote, just because we just don't have the information yet.
And am I right that the vote is not about the LDA, but about moving the money over? Oh, no, that's the different
The
project.
vote is the vote is the LDA. That is what is in front of town meeting. The LDA is what's in front of town meeting.
So
that
the information
be-
that we don't have yet is the LDA itself?
Exactly. So that the select board voted the LDA Friday. So that's where we are. Nothing has changed in terms of the conceptual drawings. It still has to go through permitting. We are not voting the building. I want to be very clear here. It's not like the building is set and this is exactly what it's going to be. As of right now, what we are voting on is an LDA, so a land disposition agreement to sell the land for the purpose of affordable housing at 60 units. That could change during permitting. I mean, many things could change, but what we are voting is that concept and the LDA for a certain amount of money. I wish I had more information for you, but like I said, the LDA has not been supplied yet. Does anyone have any questions about Washington and Swanton in general or process? Because those we could answer now.
But we could also answer those later.
Is the planning board expected to answer a question such as, does the planning board have a position on the land disposition agreement? I mean, is that what you're concerned?
I mean, the planning board was involved in the RFP process throughout time, meaning throughout the past 2 years.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I know that. But
so, we were, so we were a part of that. There were members of the planning board at the time, and design review, and several others that developed that RFP, put that RFP out. Members of the planning board looked at the response and gave comment. So we've kind of been involved. This has not been an arm's length away. Like
Right.
we have been involved in this, from the ground up. But I do think we obviously need to have those details before we can actually have a vote. So
So
yeah.
we can do that at the meeting.
I think we're going to have to. It is not anticipated that it would come up on the first night, but it might.
And it might come up on the second night, and we don't have a meeting until the following week on the
When will
Tuesday.
we get the LDA?
We'll get it when everybody else gets it, which I would imagine is before the end of this week.
Okay.
If there aren't any questions, there are, not to pick on anyone, but there are members of the petitioners for the leaf blower bylaw, if there are any questions.
Yes.
The leaf blower bylaw was in your packet. So if there were any, hi Rachel and hi George.
You can't get rid of us.
It was in your packet. So if there are any questions, or if you needed any kind of the 5-minute pitch or whatever you potentially would need from Rachel and Woody, They are here for you, but I am also looking at the time, and I know that we have applicants for ZBA permits that will most likely start hopefully in about 15 minutes. But please, anyone on the board.
Have we taken a vote in favor of this already?
We have not taken a vote.
We did express encouragement when it came before us several months ago, but that's as far as we've gotten.
Do we think we would like to take a vote?
I would like to have a motion.
So maybe it makes more sense, Woody or Rachel, did you, and I hate to put you on the spot here, but like maybe not even 5 minutes, maybe the 2
1
minute,
minute.
maybe like the 1 or 2 minute restrictions of really what we're talking about in terms of time of year and what it is. If you could really kind of succinctly explain it for the group, that would be great.
Okay. Woody, do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
Okay. So the bylaw, it would be the Chapter 25 bylaw, and it basically identifies what is a gas-powered leaf blower and an electric leaf blower, defines those things. And then the primary restriction is a seasonal restriction on the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. So you would only be able to use them from April 1st through May 31st. And then again, October 1 through December 15th, those shoulder seasons. And then you have to use electric all the rest of the time. And of course, you can use electric during those shoulder seasons as well. It also restricts the time of day during those shoulder seasons when they're allowed. The construction bylaw allows construction in town from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. This bylaw restricts the time of the gas leaf blower to the times when our kids are basically not walking to school. So to protect the kids in our walkable town, as they're walking to school from 7 to 9, you have to use electric. And then again, from 3 to 6, when the kids are walking, home or playing on our fields or something like that. And then it restricts the use of gas leaf blowers in town on Saturdays and Sundays. So again, you can use electric leaf blowers all that other time. That's the primary. There is a registration and a system through the town clerk, and the police department is the enforcement group, and we've talked to both of those groups, and they've really developed the system that this bylaw would use.
Rachel, thank you for that. My point of view here is that this is as far as these bylaws go, this is a very conservative one, basically saying you can only use gas-powered leaf blowers during spring and fall when the majority of the time when you need them. So I'll just stop there. But as far as you looking at other bylaws that are even coming close to this is an extremely conservative, very lenient, in my opinion, bylaw when it comes to gas-powered leaf blowers. Thank you.
So I think, and we kind of discussed this when we last saw you folks, is this something that is under the purview of the planning board? Is this something that we feel that fits in our mission, and so that our voice is an important component of the discussion? So that's the first question I think we need to think about. And then the next one is, if we do feel that this is part of our wheelhouse, do we want to endorse it, not endorse it, or do we want to vote for it, against it, or say nothing? So.
Answer your first question, Deanne.
Yeah, go ahead.
I remember Rachel and Woody presenting to us and using a lot of the master plan as basis for reasons why it might be important to the planning board. And I remember us listening and saying, I think, yes, those were salient points. And so I do think that even though it seems a very small point, that it goes in the direction of the master plan, which I think that is something, right? I think we we in 2022 now, end of 2022, and I think there are very few wins I feel like we can have for advancing the master plan. I think that it, you know, advances it in health and sort of climate action stuff, and I think it's nice, and I think that it really falls within our purview.
Okay, any other comments?
I would make a motion that the planning board vote to recommend favorable action, I guess is the language, at a town meeting article for this bylaw.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any further discussion, or shall we go straight to the vote? I see no interest in further discussion, so let's go to the vote. Roll call vote. Sally Dale,
Aye.
I Ching Scott,
Aye.
Nick Rosettos,
Aye.
Kurt Spring,
Aye.
and Dee Jurius. I say aye as well. Thank you very much, and I will come up with a statement to town meeting which reflects the basis for our decision, in that it flows in part from our master plan, which does talk about the health and sustainability of our community. And
Thank you.
thank you very much, and
Thank you.
good luck. Good luck.
Thank you very much for this vote. You're joining the Board of Health and the Climate Action Committee in affirmatively supporting this bylaw. So you're in good company, and thank you very much for all the effort you put into this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Excellent.
And oh, by the way, please tell your fellow town meeting members to vote in favor. We have a couple on this board, but if you run into them or have a chance to talk to them and you feel comfortable, we'd love it if you spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one for our consideration, I believe, is the Community Preservation Act. I don't know if we have anyone from them with us this evening.
We don't, but we did have a nice memo from Richard Rohan that I believe came into the packet on, I'm not sure which page it
Yeah,
is, but
well, we have a flyer.
yeah, it's the flyer kind of explaining kind of, you know, the FAQs as well as kind of everything, all the ins and outs. I thought it was very well thought out, and kind of shows kind of all of everything that you generally would have questions on.
So I think I go through the same set of questions. Is this something the board feels is within our purview to comment on? And then we can start discussing whether the board wants to, how the board wants to take a vote.
So it seems to me that this law is all about accessing funding for 4 specific areas of the town's physical infrastructure, right? It's setting aside money for, and then that gets matched with money from the state specifically for those 4 purposes. All those purposes are things that the planning board considers when we're evaluating whether things that come before us are good for the town. So I think it's good for the planning board to support this because it's supporting the same things that we're working for, I think.
Okay. Any other comments on that issue?
I also think that we're leaving a lot of money on the table if we don't do this. And so the accessing of these available funds that other communities have been accessing for years seems to be a positive thing. And I agree with Sally. These are all the concerns that we discuss when we're thinking about the master plan or various projects.
Okay.
I will mention kind of one thing that so first of all, that Richard Rohan did not put that memo together. That was from the Community Preservation Coalition. which is this nonprofit group that puts forward, well, this is really kind of in charge of promoting CPA. So just wanted to make that clarification that that was not Richard Rohan's memo. Sorry.
Well, it actually says Winchester Residents for the Community Preservation Act at the top.
But like all of the data
Yes, it does say. all
that's
of-
there is actually CPC. So
Okay,
Right. The formatting was done by Richard Rohan and team.
yeah, the content is definitely Winchester specific because it does talk about McCall and things like that. So, but so I'm going to chime in, and I think this fits in perfectly with what this board deals with. I think the monies available could go to affordable housing. They could go to open space. They could go to historic preservation of town buildings, all of things which are part of our purview. They go into making us a better and robust community, which is, I think, very much in terms of what the planning board does. It's our job to look to the future and come up with a better vision. And this is part of getting that vision, making that vision concrete. Kurt, you have unmuted yourself. Does that mean
I was going to suggest making a motion. I don't have any. Let's move it along.
Okay, well then, is there a motion on the floor? And then we can have a little bit of discussion, because that's what we're supposed to do. Motion.
I make the motion to recommend favorable action or
To endorse.
to endorse.
no, it's favorable action.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, we recommend favorable action.
For the Community Preservation Act.
And is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. So now's the time when we get to discuss the motion, and I have to admit my only concern about this is the timing. And I really don't know how so we have the concern that the people who say this is coming in too early have is that we will be having a special election in January for Lynch, and that this could be a concern when we go to the voters and ask for money again in March, whether this would actually have an effect on whether this would get passed. And that is my only concern. And I don't know what to do about that concern, to be honest. I really want this to go forward. I think, and I trust that the people of this town will understand that they're going to be paying for this stuff anyway. It'll just take longer and cost more. And that by putting this in, we actually get matching funds from the state, and we can move forward more quickly, because without this, we're gonna, I mean, for instance, the town is going to have to ask for $6 million or maybe more to put an HVAC into the town hall. All of this money has to come from somewhere. And so there certainly is an argument that we should get the money sooner rather than later, because all of the costs are going up. My very brief term so far on the capital planning committee is I get to see how all the projects which have been delayed go up by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And any delay, especially in these times, is really just diminishes your ability to do anything.
And I would add to that if town meeting doesn't vote to put this to the voters in the spring of 23, which is what are the two steps that need to happen, that it delays by 2 years Winchester's ability to reapply and receive the funds. It delays the receiving of funds by 2 years. And that's simply because there's no particular election in the fall of odd years.
Yes, this has to be at a regularly scheduled election, the next one
Right.
after town meeting vote.
So if we don't vote in the spring of 23, we won't be able to vote at a regularly scheduled election until the March March.
It would be the 2024. It would be
2024.
the next,
Sorry,
Brian, your hand
Brian,
is
go
up.
ahead.
So to that point, I have 2 points. One was the process point that Sally just made. So one, if this passes at town meeting this fall, what that does, it puts it out to a town-wide vote in March.
March.
So that's what this does. First of all, this does not make CPA happen. What this does is that it puts it on a town-wide vote in March. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the Community Preservation Coalition, which is this group that only thing they do is they live to get this passed in as many communities as possible. They gave an extremely in-depth, very thorough presentation at a select board meeting specific to Winchester. And they advised the select board to wait until a election year, a presidential election year, simply based upon the past 20 or so years of data that showed that at a presidential election, the chance of it passing goes up something like 20 percentage points. So that was the reason, because some people have asked me, why didn't the select board take this up? Why is this a citizen's petition? So that was the reason that the select board decided, they made a conscious decision to move it. And this is where what Dia was talking about, is there's some friction about, okay, yeah, maybe there's a higher chance for it happening, but maybe we lose, so that's where this is coming from. That's with the question being, why isn't the select board or a town body moving this forward? It was a conscious decision based upon the CPC, the Community Preservation Coalition, advising them not to.
Right, and
Okay, and when does the 0.5% to 3% number get decided?
So that's what the vote is in March. So if it passes in fall town meeting, the vote that's before the town in March, that's when it will be decided. So
Somebody will decide it's going to be 1% or 2%.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think town meeting votes in the fall to put this to the voters with this specified percentage. And I think the motion that's or the warrant article that's in front of town meeting is to put it in at 1.5% with three exemptions.
I'm wrong then. I'm sorry about that. I take it back.
It's okay.
There are, the 1.5% is very specific in terms of, it gets you the most money for the least paid.
That's right. That's right. It puts you at the entry level of eligibility for state matches. And the 1.5% would come with three exemptions, which is the first $100,000 of assessed property value, also exemptions for low income households and exemptions for low income and medium income elder households, senior households. And so factoring in all those exemptions, I lost my train of thought, but what was your question about?
Just how much the rate was going to be. So I thought there would be a little bit of grace period between now and say March to determine that. And so
no, that's what the motion on the floor of town meeting is.
It's going to be 1.5% in March.
So it's an interesting question if town meeting could make a motion to reduce it to 1% or to 0.5. And I do think that when you do that, you lose access to the matching funds. I do know that if you go to 3%, you get eligible for a second and third round of matching.
It's sweet. It's a sweet deal if you go for 3%.
Yes, it is. So it's something that many towns step up to when they realize the benefits of having the percent match. And I know the percent match that's forecast for 23 is 35%.
So I am mindful of time, and we do
Yes.
have some petitions. I think we can, I hope the board has enough time to have made a decision. If not, we can meet. We can still vote on this on November the 10th in our meeting before town meeting if we want to delay it till then.
Can we get through them quickly?
The ZBA petitions,
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about these. I see.
the past performance says no.
Even with the I Ching rule.
I mean, we have a motion and we have a second. And so I will call.
Oh, so let's do the vote.
Then let's do the vote. Okay, so roll call vote, please. I Ching,
Aye.
Sally Dale,
Aye.
Nick Rosettos,
Aye.
Bert Spring,
Aye.
and Diab Jerry says aye as well. So we are 5-0 for recommending favorable action. And I will put together something which you will see at the beginning of our next meeting on November 10th. You'll see the wording for that, which will essentially say what you all said. So now I think we are done with our conversation about warrant articles, and we are belatedly getting to our permit, our ZBA special permits, etc. And my apologies to those in waiting. Winchester is deliberative. So, Brian, do you want to cue us up?
Sure. So we're just going to get right into petition 3979, which is 29 Calumet Road. Petitioners are seeking site plan review to be permitted to construct an addition that is where the total area of the single family house is greater than 5,000 square feet. Property is located in the RDB 10 and contains 18,000 square feet, so a rather large lot for the zone. It entails the addition of a 2-car garage that will be connected to the existing house built in 1894. The MACRIS sheet is attached as part of the application and was determined to have above average significance as a historic resource. The Historical Commission had not met at the time of this memo, but since then, they had voted favorable action on it. So there's an existing garage that's planned for removal that's in the rear of the house that is not historic. So there's really kind of larger homes and garages dominate this area of town. So there's a slightly larger driveway is proposed with the total proposed hardscape of 22% and a proposed green space of nearly 60%. No trees are planned for removal. I thought that based on the size and the location of the proposed addition and its location near similarly sized houses and garages, I recommended favorable action with regards to this petition. Back to you, Diab.
Okay, thank you. Assistant Town Engineer Brian Manter, would you like to opine on this particular proposal?
Certainly, thank you. There's a net increase of nearly 700 square feet of impervious surface on the site. The applicant has considered that increase in runoff by designing an infiltration system. However, their submission package did not include the calcs to support the sizing of their system. So those calculations should be submitted to the engineering department to further review and verify their design. But generally speaking, they are approaching their projects in line with the standards of offsetting or addressing stormwater runoff.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the board?
I just have a couple. I was just concerned about how the plane of the front facade of the garage is proud of the main plane of the main house. And I'm not qualified to, answer whether or not it's historical. But it seems to me from the other houses that they showed in the neighborhood that that's never the case. But if historical committee thinks that it's not an issue, then that was my only sort of note. But also that maybe that the 1.5 story provision for a garage is, I don't know how that's calculated, but it looks to me like a little bit more than 1.5. But I mean, the front facade is where they put the little dormer, and then the back is where they put the big one. So it doesn't look 1.5 or more than 1.5. So those were my own concerns.
This did come up at the historical commission. It is technically 1.5, but it is part of the house. So it almost doesn't matter.
That's so strange. Okay.
Yeah, it is strange. I would agree.
Do we have, I hate to interrupt, do we have something from the design review committee on this?
I believe, Jim, are they meeting tomorrow or tonight? You guys just met with them, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did.
Could you let us in on that?
They asked for some modifications for the Calumet side. They liked the rear, or which is the south, the east, and they just asked for the north and the east they liked because it tied into the roof lines. The southeast, which is the Calumet side, they asked if we could make some modifications to the roof lines that would mimic more of the original lines on the house. Some slight adjustments on the planes to give more shingle space, and potentially, instead of the roof connecting between the garage and the main house, having a similar half shingle half wall that's like on the a couple other details. One of them's on the porte cochere.
Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Sally, please.
One thing I noticed that there doesn't seem to be any buffer planting between the east driveway, the east border of the property, and the immediate neighbor. And I don't know if there's there's some buffer planting already in place with the north neighbor. But I do think there needs to be more buffer planting than there is. That's probably one of our site plan, or I know it's one of our site plan review standards.
So would you like a comment on that? Sure. I'm trying to find the landscaping here.
It's L200.
Is it on the really big one?
Yeah, it's one of the really big ones.
Okay.
That's page 60 of the PDF, Brian, if you have it.
Yeah, that might be faster. Okay. So which area were you concerned about, Sally?
So you see where the two cars are, and if you move the screen up a little bit, because there's like some kind of a black box that's covering it. Okay, there. So this whole dotted line on the right side, that's the east property line. There's no plantings along that whole edge. And so, I mean, I know these 4 trees are Japanese maples. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that what those are? And so those are medium height. And so that's some screening of the face of the garage from the neighbor. But the property line itself is wide open. And usually there's buffer plantings. So that was my only comment about that.
There is some existing landscaping. There's a tree halfway down on the Sachs residence, and then on the Hintleyan side, they have a very large tree.
Where's the tree on this plan on the Sachs residence?
I would say if you looked at the front of the garage to Calumet, about halfway down on the right on the property line. Actually,
so I'm sorry, I didn't see that in this plan.
This plan is all proposed. With the exception of one of the trees that already got relocated in the driveway in the U shape there.
Right, but so you said there's an existing tree that is it staying? Is that what you're saying? I can't.
Yeah, there's an existing tree that's staying on the Sachs residence. There's also a large tree on the neighbor's property. There's landscaping that's not shown on this that is existing. So the majority of this is all proposed landscape.
Oh, I see. So whatever else is there.
Already there.
Right.
There's also a fence on the property line too on the east side going down.
Okay. So this is to show what you're proposing to add.
Correct.
Now I understand that.
Okay, any other comments? My only comment mirrored I Ching's is the plane of the garage. To be honest, I thought that the entrance was on Calumet, but it looks like the main entrance is on Wedgemere.
No, Calumet.
Okay, because I'm staring at I'm looking at this corner image.
Yeah,
So-
I think the porch entrance, maybe it looks like, is on Wedgemere, but then the actual front door of the home and then the porch share is
Yeah,
on
because I'm
Calumet.
looking at that and I'm wondering whether there wasn't like a carriageway house or some, I don't know. In any case, what we're looking at,
Sorry, I just wanted to put it, so this is actually the garage that's going to go away. This is the current, you can see here, 29 Calumet. You can see the trees that offer
Well,
buffering, that there's no trees being removed here.
that
um,
tree, the one that's on the property has been removed, but I was talking about the buffer zone, yes. So, okay, so you're saying that the existing buffer that's there, which is shrubs and that red tree there, are staying.
This isn't accurate for what's on the property at the moment.
Oh, so
there
those
is-
things aren't
there
there
is-
anymore.
Trees
is
on
2
the
years ago.
right hand side, but not like what you see in this image from
So
Google Earth.
there was a couple of trees removed before this.
Yes. Some were relocated. I'm not sure exactly when this image is from.
This is
it
November
says-
of 2020, so almost exactly 2 years ago.
Well, I'd have to go out and look at the site and see what's there now as opposed to what's proposed, because it doesn't feel buffered enough. That's my only comment.
okay. Is there a motion? Would someone like to propose a motion?
I propose the motion, I make a motion to propose, or to recommend favorable action for the site plan review of 29 Calumet Road.
I
Okay,
would second it.
and no conditions? Or no conditions, no concerns stated? Okay. Let's vote on that motion. Kurt,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Sally,
I'm sorry, I'm confused. So does my comment about wanting more buffer go away unless I make it a condition?
Yeah, you'd modify that
Yes, I
motion.
think so.
you could modify the motion.
Modify
yeah.
the motion, Sally.
May I do that now?
Sure,
Is it too late?
I
Okay,
think we
so I
can
would
be
modify the
flexible.
notion to say that I would like to make sure that there's adequate buffer plantings between properties.
Okay, and in particular, the neighboring property on Calumet.
Right.
Okay,
I mean, everybody has the same.
is everyone okay with that motion, that addition to the motion? Okay, so why don't we, that's a changed motion. I have no idea what Roger's rules are. Let's do this whole vote thing again.
I think that's why I didn't know if I was too late.
Yeah, Roger's rules is just a pain in the butt. Kurt. Let's vote.
Sorry, I just have one minor question. So how are the homeowners supposed to interpret and define adequate buffering on that right side?
Well, it's in our zoning bylaws. Let me pull out site plan review.
Well, I'm more just thinking, like, practically speaking, like, are they meant to come back with a new plan, or I'm just trying to give
Well, I
them some
think it
guidance
should
on like
come
what
up
they're
in the
supposed to do next.
I think it should come up in maybe the design review process, but I just know that site plan review,
Well,
that is the
You
criteria.
could say that just, additional plantings along the east side, they recommend
There, that would
favorable
help.
action if additional, larger or whatever, what do you want? I think that's what Kurt's trying to get to the bottom of here is.
Well, I just want to know that it, I always get confused.
so these are our comments passing on to the ZBA for them to interpret.
That's right.
So it's, we are advisory in that sense. So the ZBA could say, oh, planning board thought they might need more plantings. Let's talk to them about what might be
Right, so the motion amended would be that, what I Ching said, which is that she recommends favorable action on this, recommends endorsement of this site plan review. And then amended to state, with the focus on ensuring,
Additional plantings on the east
yes,
court on
thank
the
you,
east.
Brian.
Yeah, additional plantings on the east property line.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is Caroline and Ben Sachs. We're the homeowners of 29 Calumet.
Mhm.
We have just worked very closely with our neighbors to ensure that the landscaping is in conjunction with what they want. They want a fence and sort of clean line. So I think, you know, we certainly want to take your recommendations into account, but we also want to be thoughtful to what our neighbors wish for the property, because we had removed some trees on our property and they said they very much appreciated the new light that was added to their home. So we want to be very thoughtful in what we do.
That's a really good point. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
They've weighed in on the subject of that in particular. So let's just drop that then and say that this is an endorsement for favorable. I mean, yes, we recommend favorable.
Endorsing the site plan.
Site plan,
Okay,
period.
so the motion is to recommend
Second.
endorsement of site plan. We have, I don't know how many seconds. Let's try this all over again. Kurt,
Aye.
thank you. Sally,
Aye.
Yi Ching,
Aye.
Nick,
I,
and Diab says aye as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys chiming in. It's late. Sometimes we lose it.
Next.
Now on to our next one. Tee this up, please, Brian.
Yep, this is 3981 18 Chester Street. Again, and this is another site plan review to be permitted to construct a detached garage measuring 24 feet by 44 feet, where the total floor area of the single family dwelling and the garage will be greater than 3,600 square feet, because this is in the RG 6.5. This is a very large lot for this zone at over 10,000 square feet. The proposal entails the creation of a new garage / makerspace that is around 1,000 square feet. So it's 1,000 new square feet. The original house was built in 1870 with a rehab in 2017. Currently, the house is about 2,900 square feet. I had a couple of issues with the conceptual drawings that really just didn't show any dimensions whatsoever. So it's unclear if the detached structure's dormers are more than 50% of the horizontal plane and therefore would potentially require a special permit. I found the addition attractive, and it's located in an area of the lot that is the least impactful. So I found that as a positive. However, there is a lack of information for me to determine the compliance of this structure. If confirmation of the dormer structures are found to be less than 50% of the length of the proposed building, I thought I'd be able to recommend favorable action with regards to this petition, but do not have all of the information I need at this time. Back to you, Diab.
Okay, comments from Assistant Town Engineer Brian Manter, please.
Yes, what they're proposing will increase impervious surface on their site up to about 1,800 square feet. The applicant has designed an infiltration system to offset the increased runoff from the impervious area, and their design looks in accordance with regulations and standards. There are some minor revisions that will be required. However, their concept looks good.
Okay. I think I found, no, I didn't find that. I was thinking maybe I found some dimensions for you, Brian, but any comments from the board?
No, go ahead, Nick.
no, I was just gonna say, I think it's a nice looking design. I like the fact that it's detached and it's gonna be a maker's space. The garage doors, everything looks really thoughtful in terms of the design.
Okay. Yi Ching?
Oh, thank you. Just looking at the site plan and the neighborhood plan, I am wondering 172 of 193, Brian. So the back of 18 Chester and where the garage is seems to be right where the next lot is Emerson Court, which doesn't seem to have a proper setback. So I just wonder if it's too close in some ways to that neighbor on Emerson Court, but I don't know if the owner has some comments on that or
maybe we can.
Sorry, I Ching, you said this is.
yes.
Sure.
If you see on the left,
Sorry, I have too many
middle,
things open here. So, yep.
yeah,
Winchester's
and
here.
see Emerson Court goes like to perpendicular to it. And there's like a house right at the end of Emerson Court that would be right where the garage is.
So could you possibly move your mouse somewhere so I can see where you're at, Brian? Oh, you're way over on the left. Could you drag that in the middle of the screen? Thank you.
And maybe enlarge.
Maybe enlarge, yeah.
And maybe white cursor on white background. We're gonna have
Sorry.
to work on that.
So left.
Okay, right there we are. So right there.
So we have a site plan. One of the sheets that we have, it's called sheet 1 of 1.
Yeah.
And the label says proposed construction 18 Chester Street. And it shows the boundaries of the property and the layouts of the buildings. Can you pull that one up, Brian? Because that shows what I Ching was concerned about, which was the distance between the maker space and the lot line, the back lot line. That.
Yeah.
No, not
So-
even.
Right, this would be good, but like, you know, that other lot would be just to the face of it. And that seemed like a non-conforming lot in some ways. It was so small to the left of this proposed garage. So it's not the homeowner's, you know, maybe like concern necessarily, right? But that neighbor really is close.
You're talking the neighbor to the left?
To the left, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But, you know, I don't know if you asked or if there were any neighboring.
On this plan that I'm looking at, sheet 1 of 1, it has a setback. I think it's at the 5-foot setback. That's what I see.
Yeah, it's 6 feet.
It's
which is-
it's a 6 foot. They went one more foot.
Which is to their, I mean, by right? I mean, they can
Yep,
totally do that. It's just that I'm just that was my only concern. I mean, it's I don't know if there were any neighboring comments.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a good question.
do we want to reach out to I think the one of the proponents is here. Peter Mitchell, that's you, right?
I am the homeowner and my
Yeah.
wife is sitting next to me, but I'll speak for the couple.
Sure. So have you had a chance to talk to your neighbors to the left about?
Yeah,
This is-
so the board's right. There are 2 neighbors. There's one in the front, which is on Chester, and then the other one, which is on the court. And then there's a neighbor directly behind me. I've spoken with all 3 neighbors and all 3 seem to be supportive of it, but it's one of those things that's probably hard to be confrontational in front. So I've made them aware of they've gotten the letters about this. I've made them aware if they want to object about any of this to bring it up. I'm trying to be amicable, especially the people in the rear, because the garage will be towards them. I've asked them if there's anything I can do to help ease this or anything like that. I haven't gotten any feedback from them. We seem to be on good speaking terms. I had my smoke alarms go off the other day, and they were the only people that text messaged me to make sure everything was okay. So I guess that was a good sign more than
That's
anything
a
else.
good sign, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other concerns from the board?
I have a
I can
comment.
address the dormer thing real quick.
Sure.
So I had the meeting earlier with the design board. They had a comment on either reducing the size or eliminating them. More than likely, I'm going to go back to the architect and just eliminate them. The current proposed size, though, is 16 feet. That is on the last page in the packet,
Yeah.
which shows the floor plan for the second story. So
I never saw that.
it's about a third right now.
It's
but more-
this
but-
one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it's 16 feet and then you add up and it's 16 out of 44. So it's less than
Mhm.
half.
Mhm.
Yeah, more than likely, I'm gonna go back to the architect, and the final proposal for the site plan review is gonna eliminate them altogether. That was the feedback from the design board. I'm pretty indifferent to them either way, so if it helps move it along, we can eliminate them, that's not a problem.
Okay, any other comments from the board? I didn't see a landscape design for this. So, what is there currently? Are you removing any sort of vegetation or trees other than lawn?
The proposal right now, the site was pretty much clear cut when it was redone in 17 and 18.
Okay,
And we share a maple in the southeast corner, massive maple. We as the homeowners have kind of taken ownership of it and hire an arborist to take care of it. Part of the reason that the garage is moved as close to the house as possible is because we don't want to interrupt the root system, but there is no mature plant on the site that is going to be removed. We will be adding plants on the north side of the property once all this is done in place.
okay. I think that would be a very useful thing to make sure that gets to the ZBA. Because is this site plan review or special permit? I can't remember.
Site plan.
Site plan. I think
It's just based on the size of the addition.
Yeah, I can't remember anymore if it's required for site plan or not, but I think that's good to know. And the fact you're saving a big tree is very heartening. Are we ready for a motion, folks? Will someone please make a motion?
I move that the planning board vote to recommend, or vote to endorse the site plan for 18 Chester.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Nick,
Aye.
Yi Ching, Sally,
Aye.
and Kurt.
Aye.
And Diab says aye as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate you stopping by. It should be a great
Right.
place.
Thank you. I found it informative.
Now our last one is Brian, tee this up, please.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one that I'm actually really excited about, that this type of thing doesn't happen very often. So this is 959 Main Street. Petitioners are seeking a special permit so as to be permitted to change a existing non-conforming use, which is an exotic pet store and antique shop, to another less detrimental non-conforming use, a cafe/bakery. As well as alterations to a non-conforming structure. So the property is located on Main. This is 959 Main in the GBD 3 zoning district and contains about 4,700 square feet. So the structure was built in 1909. It's gone through extremely significant changes over the past 100 years. The Macros database report was included in the application package and showed that the structure was beyond recognition of its historical past and deemed to be an insignificant historical structure. I would still be interested again to see how the historical commission would respond to the proposal. But both the existing and the proposed uses are non-conforming. But as I said, an applicant may change from one existing non-conforming use to a different non-conforming use if it's found to be less detrimental than the existing use.
Right.
So the structure will not be torn down. It's going to be gutted and renovated on the interior with high efficiency upgrades to the HVAC system. I don't know if it's a full electric building, but there's going to be all electric ovens. There's going to be no gas on site, and there will be an exterior in the form of there'll be new exterior in the form of signage and new materials to accommodate the new use. There are very similar uses, obviously, in the area with other sit-down and quick lunch places, and I really think it would fit into the plan of making this part of Main Street a more attractive through uses that people actually want to go to. So not only is a cafe bakery kind of less detrimental than a pet store, I really feel that the proposed use would be a benefit to the neighborhood and to the community in general, keeping a local restaurant thriving. So less than 20 seats are proposed for the cafe. So existing on-street parking will suffice in this case when compared to the existing use. So zoning actually would not require any additional on-site parking to be included with this proposal. Based on the proposed use being less detrimental to the neighborhood than the current use, I recommended favorable action with regards to this petition and am excited at this prospect.
I would second some of what Brian said. I'm thrilled to support this.
Let us quickly hop over to our assistant town engineer, Brian Mancher, and ask him if he has any professional opinion on this.
Thank you, Chair. Chairman, yeah, there's no aspect of this project that has work which would require review by the engineering department.
Okay, thank you. I want to note that it is really bizarre that this is before us, in the sense that who would have thought that a bakery with a little restaurant was a non-conforming use in a business district? But I think this really highlights, and I know that Mr. Fraterelli and Brian and I don't know, however many people got together to try to figure out how to make this work. And I think we have to take a long, hard look at our use table for the GBDs and try to figure out, maybe the reason there's no business down there is because we don't allow any business. So I think this is, something we need to look at closely, I think, after.
No, it feels like we're allowing this business. We're more than allowing it.
Brian,
Yeah,
I guess you have to put that on our December, January, February agenda.
Yeah,
I mean,
it seems like,
there's no doubt the GBD 2 and 3 use table is hopefully going to get a much better facelift throughout this process that we have with.
That was our
pricing.
homework from last meeting, that we had to look at the use table.
oh, was it? Well, then
Yeah.
let's go and look at the use table.
All right.
I want to just have a comment that I think that Philip is doing a great thing for this building to save it. From Winchester's sustainability goals point of view, reusing an existing structure is so much less of an environmental impact than demolition, disposal, and then transportation of all new materials, etc. And then, of course, the building. So I kudos for doing a reuse. I really love that. And I also love that it's a much better use than an exotic pet store, although I don't mean to sound prejudiced against exotic pets. I just have more of an affinity for baked goods. So, and I think the drawings look fine. I'm not here to assess the design of the building, but the whole notion of it is right to me.
So, are there any other comments from the board? Yi Ching.
I think the proposed use is great. And I just wonder about the owners, if they've been sort of following our Main Street studies. And we've been wondering about, the desire for some developers to upgrade some of the buildings up here, but just kind of curiously, like I don't want to derail our, thing that we're starting to do here, but I'd be curious to know if you were considering any sort of like upzoning or doing maximum height, or taking use of some of the allowed density that's going on there. I'm just sort of curious.
So I don't know if that's directed towards
Mr. Fraterelli, maybe?
either Philip or the attorney, Mark Vaughn.
I'll take a stab at that. So this was a little bit of a marriage of location and need for us. So at Lucia's, we need some extra room. We want to get more into making more of our pastas and breads and desserts. We also have a lot of outdoor dining equipment and things that need storage in the off season. So we were looking for a space that we could house some of that and maybe have like a commissary. Just the location being next to 955. The cafe use seemed perfect for us. We've done it before in Boston. If we're going to be making breads and pastries, there's no reason we can't make a cappuccino and offer people lunch and breakfast options as well. There's hundreds of people who work in the building next door, and hopefully North Main Street becomes a place where people come for a coffee and support the business that way as well. So we think it just was the right time and the right kind of opportunity for us. But that being said, I mean, if this, we still have a few hurdles to clear, and just preserving the building and making it sustainable by offering, by not using gas ovens and all electric and all that is something that's important to us. But hopefully, we can go forward with this plan. If it's not, obviously the height and everything else and the density continues to be on the table if this doesn't work out.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other comments, or are we ready for a motion? I'm ready for a motion.
Let's see, I would like to recommend favorable action on this project.
I think that's what we need to say. Recommend favorable action on whatever the ZBA number is. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent.
It's a
Roll-
motion to recommend. A second motion to
Motion
recommend.
to
favorable.
recommend. Roll call vote, please. Kurt Spring,
Aye.
Sally Dale,
Aye.
I Ching Scott,
Aye.
Nick Rosettos,
Aye.
and I, Jerry, say aye as well. Thank you very much. And I look forward to strolling over there and getting me something good to eat.
Thank
So,
you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you all. I think I would also welcome a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
and I don't care about
Second.
seconds. Let's just say.
Aye.
Aye.
Call vote. I Ching,
Yes, aye.
Sally.
Yeah, she said aye, I said aye.
Okay, Kurt,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and DFJ's I say aye as well. Thank you all out there in TV.
Bye,
land.
Brian. Bye, Richard. Bye,
Brian
Nancy.
Manters,
Bye,
assistant
Phil.
engineer.
Good night, everybody.
Planner, Nancy Polcari. What are you, Nancy? You're a recording secretary. Richard Leaf, our go-to guy from the chamber, and WinCam, and we will see you all, I think, in 2 weeks. Or at the town meeting, whichever comes first. See you later. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thanks so much.